Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back in with another live stream. Just finished watching some golf, and did my usual Chipotle run, and just thought I would go live and to talk about the shape of the Earth. And then this will be an open panel. It's I don't have a specific lesson. It's just if other people out there, want access to somebody who's a flat earther, um, as we always say, click that link. And I'm going to read a few verses that support the fact that the Earth is flat, stationary, and where we get that understanding from in the Bible, and also the Apocrypha, which again to me is proof that it's canonical, and then God breathed, and they're Israelites, and so it's amazing, and then this physical reality, this truth of our physical reality, has what inspired many of us to give God another chance, so to speak. And so a lot of us went away, and then the Bible says there is going to be a falling away. And so that applies to God's left hand, right hand side. But, some of us have come back to the Bible or visiting it for the first time because of the obvious fact that we live on a flat, stationary earth. And so it's a powerful truth, it's a potent one. And just like the whole Bible is a very powerful and potent and sharp, like a sword, this one is as well, because it reveals, first of all, our physical reality, which is incredibly important. And then that a majority of people are involved in trying to hide that reality, which then hides God. And, once that's taken away, a lot of things can be uncovered, and it's an amazing thing. Certainly one major important one is the fact that God exists, of course, the God of the Israelites, and that we're in the last days. So I figured I would go through, I made a list of, let's see how many verses I just, you could find many more, and I'll link the video in the description below, where FlatEarthDoctrine is another channel. Nathan Roberts reads like hundreds of verses, that support the flat earth. So I'll put that in the description below. And so, this is not meant to be a comprehensive, argument, support, for the flat earth, but, it's just the ones that, I just came up with right now. And then, it's very clear, and then once the Bible has a position on it, like I'll show it does here, then, we would expect to not find a contradiction anywhere. And then that's the case. And then, so I would reference, this video that I'm about to link below, the description, just, consult that for, all the verses. And it's, it's amazing. It's, again, the Bible is completely consistent. And if it were not, I wouldn't be interested in it, personally, because I'm like anybody else. Like, we're looking for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and all that kind of stuff. So, that's an amazing thing, that the people of the book present a consistent narrative for the shape of the earth. So I'm just going to get this link. I should have did this prior. But the title of the video is called 216 Flat Earth Bible Verses. And, it's incredible that that is what the Bible states, that you and I live on. And then once you can accept this, maybe it takes a little bit of time. Hopefully, I'll reaffirm that here. Then you go to the next truth, which is that we're in hell, and then I can link that verse below. But I want to focus on the flat earth, for this live stream. And, just go to the, like I said, the few verses that I thought of. And, okay, so I put the link below in the description. And so there's no doubt about it that, and then I would highly recommend for people, read it yourself, double check it, what we're saying, what I'm saying here, and other flat earthers, who have the Bible in front of them, verify it yourself, try and look for an exception where the Bible makes a claim that we live on a ball first and foremost, and one that spins and moves and orbits and moves through an infinite vacuum, you will not find that. You will not find a reference to that. And trust me, I've looked. And so, verify for sure. So I'm just going to get started here with, some of the verses that, I made a list of. I'm going to start with Genesis, and so that's the amazing thing about the Bible. It's like, if we can't trust like the very first few words that are written, then what's the point of reading the rest? And so right from the beginning, Genesis 1:1 describes what that God made. And so we have to ask ourselves, is that where we are? And is that the place that we are right now? And then many of us believe that now, and I would say a lot of us know that to be the case. We don't believe that the earth is flat. We know that the earth is flat, and we absolutely know that the earth doesn't move, for sure. So, that's the deal. And then, this truth is one of those ones that, it's going to get people upset, when you bring this out, because the implications are immediate. And then that's offensive to people, even religious people, even people that claim to believe in God, even people that may be Christian, or Bible people, and even people who are Israelites. And so, for me personally, I like it, I like things that are obviously true, and then presenting them and then seeing how people react. And it's just like by their reaction, that you're onto something. And that's the same with Christ's skin color. And that's the same with Mystery Babylon, because we got somebody earlier getting upset about Mystery Babylon. We got people getting upset about, the fact that nuclear weapons exist. And then Mark of the Beast will get people upset. Two Witnesses will get people upset. And the list goes on and on, And so the question is like, why is it such a big deal? If it's just whatever, hey, the Bible states that. And well, if it's not such a big deal, why is it such a big deal? And so it is a big deal because it's true, all those things. So that's an amazing thing, just that we have to, deal with ultimately, is the fact that we've been lied to, for a long time, and this is a very sinister lie of the spinning ball earth. So I'll just go right to the beginning. If you get a Bible, for people who are not familiar with the Bible, the Holy Bible, it's the first book is Genesis, and the last book is Revelation, which I believe we're living in the days of now. And it just shows what's God revealing. He's starting from scratch. He's starting with our physical reality. He's starting with his son and what he looks like, what he's planning to do, what he's going to destroy, and why, and then how long it's going to take, and what's going to happen after. All those things are documented very, very clearly in the book of Revelation. And then I have a video as well where the 7 days of creation mimics the 7 plagues in the book of Revelation 16. So we're dealing with the same God. There's a lot of symmetry in the Bible, not just in Genesis and Revelation, but everywhere. There's symmetry with the account in Genesis of God destroying Sodom, with God destroying modern day Sodom, which is America. And so it's the same narrative, taking place. 2 men go, they take the righteous people out, then they burn it. Okay. And it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing in the last days. It's the same 2 people. The only difference is the number of the righteous people are greater in the last days. And then the place in modern day is America. It's not ancient Sodom. So, but it's the same movie, playing out over and over again. And it's ultimately the work of the God of the Israelites. Okay. Which is the God that I worship. And so, first, right off the bat, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That alone is offensive to a lot of people. They're like, no, it was a big bang, don't worry about it. It was a big statistical accident or whatever. The very first line of the Bible is offensive to a majority of people on this earth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Okay. Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Okay. Typically, when we use the term face, we're talking about, a flat surface. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. So God's all about dividing things. He always divides. Now he's dividing light from the darkness, which is symbolic as well of righteousness and evil. Verse 5, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So we know these aren't literal days because he hasn't even created the sun and the moon to make a day yet. So these are symbolic, and so just know that. Verse 6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And so we'll read this in Second Ezra as well, or Second Exodus, inside joke. Second Ezra, that it also reaffirms that, and so this, again, all the Israelites and all the people of God, the true people of God, are saying the same thing. They don't have a different opinion, and yada, yada, yada. And so Genesis is saying the same thing as Second Ezra, is saying the same thing as Isaiah and Zechariah and all these verses, Joshua, etc. So, just the consistency is amazing. We have to understand and know that that's a faith builder for us. Okay, verse 6, and I'll read this again. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So how strong must that firmament be for it to be able to, first of all, have a structure like that to support itself, and then to support water above it? It must be incredibly strong. We can only imagine. And so that's amazing. Verse 7, and God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And so there's water above us, okay, above the dome that we live under. And then above that is the spirit world, the third heavens. Verse 8, and God called the firmament heaven. And so here we go. We got one reference to heaven. We have a heaven as like our atmosphere. When Christ returns and he's in the heavens, he's in the atmosphere. Then we have the heavens, which is the firmament. And then we have the heavens above, which is where the spirit realm is. Verse 8, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Verse 9, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And so God can literally say things and they just happen. And so, which again shows us that whatever God creates, it's at the mercy of his will. And we're going to read that as well. Even us, it's the same thing. And so God can tell molecules to do things and then they'll do it because he's the creator. And then he doesn't go and labor and, nail things together like we have to. He just speaks it into existence. It's amazing. Verse 10, and God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas, and God saw that it was good. So everything that God's making right now has not been defiled. So it's pure, it's good. Verse 11, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And so now we're seeing all of God's creativity, okay, because he's the creator. Verse 13, and the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Part of those signs and seasons is the fact that we know that it's not 93 million miles away. And so that's a form of the signs and the seasons. And so that's we know what time period we're in, because the majority of the world says that the sun is 93 million miles away, which is absolutely preposterous. And it says it's like a rock that's like, just randomly, I guess, has infinite amount of heat to provide. But that goes against what the Bible says, that it's a light, within our firmament, and then it's making a rotation above us. And we clearly see that. So that's also another understanding for let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So it's an important thing. Verse 15, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And so everybody has to make a decision. Do you trust what Genesis says, or do you trust what NASA says? And, and then the few people that gather here, we trust what this says. And I'll prove it in other chapters as well. Verse 17, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. So they're lights in the sky. They're separate lights. Okay. If people want to join, it's I don't have a particular plan. If you want to ask questions, you can ask them in the chat, however you want to do it. I would just prefer to keep it on the flat earth, at least for now, or the ball earth, or whatever questions you have. We can get technical too. It doesn't have to just be Bible verses. I'm an engineer. I have 2 engineering degrees. So We've looked at all the claims that the ball earthers have made from a technical perspective, and we found them to be fraudulent. We found them to be liars. And so we can debunk it. We've dealt with everything at this point. So, obstruction, bottom up across a plane, satellites, moon bounce, and all those stuff that people say. So I don't know, man. The lighting might not be very good. 2 Liter, but what's up, man? Shout out 2 Liter. Shout out End Times Teacher, Invisible War, and Orange Gorilla. Good to see you. And there it is. So where were we here? Verse 17, and God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. Verse 18, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So God's creative. Okay. He's the creator. Verse 19, and the evening and the morning were the 4th day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And so we're getting God's language of heaven. He's saying the atmosphere, the openness, the atmosphere is heaven. The firmament itself is a heaven, and then there's the heaven above that. And so, that's amazing. Just to be able to witness God making this stage is incredible. And then I would assume that he's using his angels to do this. He's telling them to do this, and then they're doing it. But he's speaking it into existence. It's an amazing thing. And God created whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. And God said, let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle and after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image and our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So at this time, man was supposed to have dominion over the animals. And then we see that this order has been disrupted, and it is no longer the way it is. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. Verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And so everybody comes to us and say, oh, you got to be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, but what about all this other stuff? It also says subdue it and have dominion over it. We don't have any dominion over the animals and everything else. We have no ability. So if we don't have that, then why would we go and be fruitful and multiply? Because then we'll be subject to all those other things. So we can't even control the animals, because they'll just go crazy and bite people and harm people. And so the whole order is completely messed up. So again, God's making that statement in a time when it says here, have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And so that's clearly not the case right now. And so if that's not there, then you don't take God's advice on the other thing. Okay, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. We're not able to replenish the earth. It's got to be destroyed first. And then that's, again, read Revelation, because Revelation, the 16 mirrors Genesis 1. If you read the first day of creation and you read the first plague and you go down the list, they're matching. They're 1-to-1. So when God builds up something, he's going to destroy it in the same way. It's amazing. Verse 29, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face. Let me read that again, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Verse 30, and to every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. So here we have, where we are, and so a person could either believe that or not, and I would implore people to consider that, that this description right here is why we're here, and where we are. So, that's the deal. I'm going to read Joshua next. Lifting the veil, good to see you. Rob Kin, good to see you. Trusting only in the Most High, good to see you as well. Lifting the veils like the earth is not flat. Okay. All right, cool. Well, click the link and, prove it to me with science, I guess, however you want to do it. It's going to be an uphill climb, but, it's fine. We've looked at the arguments for a ball Earth, and they're crazy. They're not even like, they're literally crazy. So it's not even like a debate, but, if you want to take a shot at it, go ahead. It's an open panel. Here we go. So we're going to read Joshua 10. I'll start at verse 11. And it came to pass as they fled from before Israel and were in the going down to Beth-horon, and the Lord cast down great stones from heaven upon them unto Azekah, and they died. They were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword. So God's been using these hailstones from this time in Joshua, and he's going to do it again in Revelation. It's the same God. Okay, people are like, oh, it's a different God in the Old Testament. New, really? Why is he doing the exact same thing? Okay. And so why is Genesis mirror Revelation if they're two different gods? That doesn't make sense. And so why is he casting down hailstones here in Joshua and he's doing the same thing in Revelation? You got to read Revelation 11 and Revelation 16 because it's the same God. Verse 12, then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said, in the sight of Israel, sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. So he lit up the stage. He's like, keep the lights where they are. We need this to be illuminated. And so, like it says here, and the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down for a whole day. And so how does that work if the earth is spinning? Then you wouldn't have a whole day. You'd have to stop the earth as well from spinning and orbiting and whatever it's doing that they say. So that doesn't make sense in that architecture. Verse 14, and there was no day like that before or after it, that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. And so this tells us, and that's in Joshua 10, 12, 22, which is a number referring to the earth, the flat earth. So 10. Now we'll go to Isaiah. This is one of probably the most common one. Again, it's in 40:22. The number 22 is used oftentimes to describe the earth. Isaiah 40:22. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. A circle is a two-dimensional shape. Okay, and the inhabitants thereof are a grasshopper that stretches out the heavens as a curtain and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. And so that firmament is this tent that it's talking about. And so it says here, the inhabitants are like grasshoppers. And so we're in an enclosed realm. Okay. And the Bible makes a statement that this realm, physical realm, is hell. And so it started off good, but once the serpent was put in the garden, then the ball started rolling, like quite literally, actually, pardon the pun. And so that's what happened, and then we're here, hopefully at the end of it, at the end of the hell. But Isaiah 40:22 also supports the fact that we live in an enclosed system that's not moving. And we live on a plane, okay, a flat plane. Zechariah 12:1, the burden of the word of the Lord is for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretches forth the heavens and layeth the foundations of the earth and formed the spirit of man within him. And so this God again tells us, even in the book of Zechariah, that he stretches out the heavens and layeth the foundations of the earth. If you lay the foundations on your home, does your home move? The whole point of a foundation is that it's not moved. Okay. It's stationary. It's static. Okay. And it's level as well. That's another good quality of a good foundation. And so that's the way the earth is. Okay. And so why does it say that stretches forth the heavens? Because we just described multiple heavens in Genesis 1. Okay. The atmosphere, the firmament, and then the heavens above. And so that's what's going on. And that's actually a good point that Invisible War brings up about the flood with Noah. That only works in a flat earth architecture because the floodgates are literally, above the firmament. And there's a Simpsons episode which shows like Bart or somebody hitting the firmament, and then it cracks the firmament and water comes down And that's truth in plain sight. That's God telling us the truth through his left-hand side, the Simpsons, that there's water above us. And that's how God flooded the earth. He would just literally have to open up some of those portals through his angels, and then the whole earth would just get flooded. And then he would have a way to drain it as well. So that's amazing. That the Bible only makes sense on a flat stationary earth. I'll read. This is what I read recently in 2nd Ezra. 16, 51 to 61. And so, this is good. Again, it just shows the consistency, everywhere. And, with Genesis, Joshua, Zechariah, they're all saying the same thing, and they're all using very, very similar language too, which is important because it's the same God. 2nd Ezra 16:51. Therefore, do not be like her or her works, for in a very short time iniquity will be removed from the earth, and righteousness will reign over us. Sinners must not say that they have not sinned, for God will burn coals of fire on the head of everyone who says, I have not sinned before God in his glory. The Lord certainly knows everything that people do. He knows their imaginations and their thoughts and their hearts. Okay, because he formed them. 55, he said, let the earth be made, and it was made. And let the heaven be made, and it was made. And at his word, the stars were fixed in their places, and he knows the number of the stars. So God's very, very good at math. Verse 57, he searches the abyss and its treasures. He has measured the sea and its contents. Verse 57, he has confined the sea in the midst of the waters. And by his word, he says he has suspended the earth over the water. And so we must live. That's why the Bible says the sea gave up the dead which were in it. And so there appears to be a holding place that's down there. Okay, and then you can read 2nd Ezra 7. We read Enoch 22 earlier, and then lots of other verses, that talk about that holding place. So verse 58, he has confined the sea in the midst of the waters, and by his word, he has suspended the earth over the water. So we're not in like an infinite vacuum or orbiting or anything like that, because if that were the case, then they would write that. They would explain that. And so that's not where Ezra says that we live, or Genesis or Zechariah or Joshua or anybody, or even Job. He says that as well. He says the sun and the moon are local. So it's, you got to pick, one or the other. So we had somebody recently come on, start talking about the solar system and then this and that. So, we're just like, okay, we can't take this person seriously because they're in the congregation of the dead. Okay. They're Antichrist. The spinning ball earth is severely Antichrist. Everything's Antichrist. That's not true, but it's supremely Antichrist. So choose carefully. Verse 59, he has spread out the heaven like a dome and made it secure upon the waters. And so, again, this is exactly consistent with what we read in Genesis. He has put springs of water in the desert and pools on the tops of mountains so as to send rivers from the heights to the water of the earth. He formed human beings and put a spirit in the midst of each body and gave each person breath and life and understanding, and the spirit of Almighty God, who surely made all things and searches out hidden things in hidden places. So 2nd Ezra 16 is saying the exact same thing that we read in Zechariah, that God made the entire earth. He made man, and then he put the spirit inside every single person, and they only do what he tells them to do. And so that's the way it is. You cannot have a cloudy day. You cannot have rainfall. You cannot have a bird change elevation unless God says, okay, go ahead and do it. And so that's an amazing thing, how God can do all this and then make us feel like, we can move around freely. But, that's a mystery. No one knows the answer to that, but it's an incredible thing. So, it's the same narrative here in 2nd Ezra 16 that, we live in a stationary, confined space. And, that's the deal. And so there's other verses in Job, that talk about, the moon being local. I mean, you just got to look outside. We know that, the moon, the sun and the moon are not very far away. So now for people who, understand that, then we have to look at what does the rest of the book say. Job 26:9, he hold back the face of the throne and spreadeth his cloud upon it. Sorry, that's not the one I wanted. Uh, yeah, this is a good one. This is Job 37. We got a Freemason that wants to join. Job 37:21. And now men see not the bright light which is in the clouds, but the wind passeth and cleanseth them. Let me read that again. Job 37:21. And now men see not the bright light which is in the clouds. And so that's very clearly true. If you ever saw these, footage from a plane, or if you've been on a plane or whatever, you see it's very clear that the sun and the moon are local to the clouds. And that's why, when the clouds move near them, then they get illuminated, locally is the math term for it. And so that can only happen if the sun and the moon are local, to those things like the clouds. So, hopefully that's, again, obvious that that's the case. We don't live on a spinning, moving anything, so that's just, that's an incredible thing, just to think about. So, that's pretty much all I had, actually. Like, it's, again, for us, like people that come by here, flat earth is kind of like an older topic. I'm not saying it's not important, because it's what drew us here, but it's like, it's well established, it's not like I'm bringing out anything new today, but it's, we become a bit of an echo chamber on it, and it's good because everything that we see reaffirms that it is flat and stationary. And then all their space missions and all that kind of stuff that we see are just like CGI, it's nonsense. And now we even have pilots coming forward saying that, yeah, it is flat, they don't have any reason to risk their job or anything. So, that would be one of the groups of people that would probably know it the best. There's a guy that I used to go to grad school with that may know even more about it, but he didn't want to talk about it. So that led me to believe that he's not allowed to talk about it. But his job was like planning flight paths, like the optimization for flights. He would do the mathematics behind it. And I asked him, can we talk about it? And I didn't get a reply. So then now he works for the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. So he's definitely not going to talk about this. And then for a numerology people, his initials were ME, which is 33. So I kind of like figured, okay, he's on the inside, so to speak. Like, they're not allowed to talk about it. And so there's a large group of people on this earth who have to be involved in making sure that this truth does not come out, and certainly the Christian church is one, and then so are the Hebrew Israelites. And so that's why we know that a majority of the people on earth are just actors. And so don't be surprised. It was an eye-opening thing for me and everybody when we became flat earthers. We're like, well, how did this lie get perpetrated and propagated and maintained to this time? And so it requires a lot of people, billions of souls. So, and even religious people, will fight you tooth and nail and make fun of you, call you a flathead and you're stupid and this and that. So then we know that it's, it's true, just because there's no reason to have that kind of argument. If the earth was a spinning ball, you would be able to prove it, like, easily, very easily. So, it's like, why is it so hard? That's what we would ask at the beginning. Like, why is it such a big deal? Like, why are they struggling to find us like a definitive answer that's like what I call unique, mathematically unique? And so, then I was like, well, it was because it's not true. And then, that's just what we know now, Galapagos, good to see you, man. Orange Gorilla, I'm not sure if I showed you out. And then Bible Defender, good to see you, man. Shalom. So the same can be proved or flat earth. What does that mean? Lifting the veil. I like good grammar and spelling here, in case you aren't familiar with my channel. I prefer like sentences that make sense. The same can be proved or flat earth. What does that mean? Okay, it's like, I'll give you another chance. Delete that and then type it properly. Don't be stupid, man. You're not dealing with dumb people. Not that education matters, but I have an undergrad and a master's in electrical engineering. So You're not dealing with like some random flat earther who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, which is a lot of people. But, we do have a few scholarly flat earthers. One of them is a gentleman by the name of Life is Short. I believe his first name's Travis, and he produced a video which was excellent. And the only reason that I was thankful that I went into the flat earth and went in those debates, because he proved that objects can be obstructed bottom up across a flat plane. And he proved it with many, many videos and all physics. And he went into the mathematics and explained it and then gave demonstrations. So that was the only scholarly thing I've ever seen from both sides in the 4 years that I was debating the flat earth. And so that video is on my channel. You can search for the title. It's called Angular Resolution in Our World, I believe. And, that channel is called Life Is, which is one word, space, short. And so if you look up a video, I'll actually just get the title here. I'll put the link in the chat. This is very academic, but I would highly recommend people watch it because, it's incredible. It's just an excellent video where he explains it, and then this is what ballers have been lying about is, that objects can only be obstructed bottom up if you live on a spherical Earth. And we know that to not be true, and that's proven here in this video. So it's it's a really good one. Sorry, I'll just get the link from his channel. I can't seem to find it on my channel for some reason. I can't remember the exact title of it. But there's very good understanding, intuition as well as to why that's the case, why that works, and why objects do obstruct bottom up across a flat surface, which is where we live. And so there's a very good explanation, and it's very obvious actually when you think about it. I'll just link his whole channel if I can find it. He's kind of like a bit of a mystery because he kind of showed up and then kind of just went away. He didn't really it was a bit of sort of like an enigma, I don't know if that's the right word, but he just, he didn't really show up too much on, all the debates, but he would have been an incredible asset for the debate. But I think he's part of Globebusters, which is, Bob Nodell. And so, they're pretty secretive, and then they're on Netflix and all that. So they're part of the system. So, that's the channel that I just put in the chat. He's got a lot of information on the channel. It's not just one video. It's a lot of videos. And so what he's proving is that when you see a boat that goes away from you, why do you stop seeing the bottom first? Because the ballers will say, oh, that's the curve of the Earth. But what he proves on his channel is that makes sense, and that happens on a flat Earth. And then I have a video on my channel where I prove that in my hallway here, literally here in my hallway, that, if you set the camera up close to the ground and then you walk away, if you set the angle correctly and tight to the surface, then eventually, if you have a long enough hallway, you're going to stop seeing your feet, and then you'll stop seeing more and more. And then that happens, across a flat plane, a flat surface like my hallway. And so he used a hallway in a school, and he used a water body and all that. So he went into the details. So that was a big gap filled in, for people who went into those debates. We'd go up against people like Rumpus and, all that kind of stuff. So, then the tides turned in our favor, so to speak. And then January 1st, 2020 of the Black Swan came out, which was a video image by a channel called BMLSB69. And I'll put that channel link in in the chat for people to check out, because these are the most important, quote unquote, most important discoveries. And so this channel that I'm about to put was the absolute, I would say, nail in the coffin for the ball earth for me personally. And he's still posting videos to this day. So this is a good channel to be subscribed to. And, it's incredible, that they produced this black swan image where there was like an oil platform, 20 some miles away, like, or maybe I can't remember how many miles away, like 10 or 15 miles away. And it showed the horizon behind the oil platforms. So, that's pretty far. Again, I would just recommend going through those videos. And so then it became, pretty certain, that we're dealing with a flat earth, and then we could prove it technically with observations and rigorous math, and rigorous physics. And so then it was it. I mean, I recommended doing a test with GPS, which would reaffirm it, but at this point, it doesn't matter. And so that's where we're at, and so then we have literally every reason to believe that we've been lied to our whole life. And for spiritual people, God was the one doing it. And so the God of the Bible made the flat stationary earth, and then he also made the people who were doing the deception. Job 12:16, with him is strength and wisdom, the deceived and the deceiver are his. And so all these ball earthers who get angry at you and all that, I'm not talking about the people who like genuinely listen to you or they just don't care. They're not actively deceiving. They're the ones being deceived. But, God's pushing the ball earth and all the lies. Okay. So he's pushing the truth on his right-hand side, and he's pushing the lies on his left-hand side. And he's just pushing the truth now, pretty hard, as well, which is good because he wasn't for a while. And so that's why, I believe that we're living in the last days because of this being revealed, and then, the things beyond that. So that's an amazing thing. So the Bible supports a flat stationary earth everywhere. Those would be the top, 5 or 6 places I would look to prove that in the Bible. And, many of us here, we've read the Bible many, many times. And if we found a contradiction, we would say it, we'd be like, well, wait a minute. Amos says this, or some other book says something different. And we'll be like, well, what's going on here? Okay. Like, why is the God of the Bible saying a couple different things? Here he says that he did this in Genesis, but then later he said, oh no, maybe there is gravity in a spinning earth or something. We'll be like, what's going on here? So, that's not the case. And I've checked, personally. So that's comforting to know, we're standing on solid ground, quite literally. That, that's where we live, and we don't know what's outside, we don't know all the dimensions of what's going on outside as well. And that's in Jeremiah. And that's by design. We're not supposed to know. Jeremiah 31:37, thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Lord. And so this God has secrets. Okay. And so this is for him to know. And so that's why we know that NASA are a bunch of liars, because they say, oh no, the universe ends at this point, and they try and claim that they measured it all out and all. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay. Give me a break. Yeah. So they're just a bunch of actors. All right. So I'll just go through the chat. If nobody has any questions, I'll just round it out there. But, I thought I would get some ball earthers on here to defend their case. But I think at this point, not to sound arrogant, but there's nothing that a ball earther can say because we've already heard everything. So that's why we don't really get any debates anymore, because we have the answers, about the optics and about the lies and all the CGI trickery and all that. So that's why, if I were to do this type of a debate a few years ago, you'd have lots of trolls come by. Oh, you dummies, you stupid flatters and all that kind of stuff. And then I've noticed over the years with my channel, they don't post anything anymore. Like back in the day, I used to have to delete people and block all these people because they would come by and say, oh no, where's your model? And, you're dumb and like all this kind of stuff. Now, like nobody comes by. Okay. Like, it's like, it is good. So a majority of my subs are probably like ball earthers who like, got on during that wave, but they don't come by anymore. Normally you would post a flat earth video or something, and then you get a bunch of people like just crash it. And so you get a lot of dislikes. You'll get a lot of people showing up, even if it's for a little while, calling you stupid and all that, but you don't see that anymore. And so that's very telling, what's going on with this truth. It's undeniable at this point. Lifting the veils, like, give me a model. We don't have to give you anything, man. Why don't you go get a brain and then we'll go make the model yourself. Okay. Like, we're going to do anything for you dummies when you people are all stupid. And the only scholarly thing that I've seen in this whole debate for 3 or 4 years is that link that I put for Life is Short. It's the only thing that's academic, rigorous, has the mathematics, has the intuition, has the demonstrations, and then you can go and demonstrate it yourself in your hallway or whatever. And I haven't seen anywhere near anything like that from Rumpus or Dean, or definitely not Lifting the Veil or any of you dumbos. So why don't you, Lifting the Veil, go and click that link and go understand what he's saying. Then if you have questions, I'll answer it. And then why don't you figure that out first, okay, before you come by here and we try and give you a model, which you wouldn't even understand anyway, because you're just a dummy. So go to that channel. Life is Short is the name. His name's Travis, and he's part of Globusters. So, don't expect anything else from him. But, this is a concept for vision, Appendix A, bottom first disappearance across flat surfaces. Go watch that video. It's 25 minutes. And he has a 3.5-hour long video, which none of you retards would understand. I'm talking about the ball earthers. Go watch that one. It has 46,000 views. I'll put that link in the chat. It's called Angular Resolution in Our World. You probably don't even know what the title means. So but anyway, just humor yourself and me. Go try and understand this. I believe he's like a spiritual guy. Like he would consider himself a Christian. So, he knows what's going on. At least some idea of what's going on. So go watch that video and get your popcorn out, and you won't understand it. I guarantee you, because if you're stupid, which I have a feeling you are based on your spelling and your grammar, but give it a whirl. And then if you have questions on that, we can go through it. Then it'll be an academic discussion, not just, hey, give me your model and like, why don't you believe NASA and all that? Well, why don't you go understand that video? And so let me see if you can understand that first, and then we'll have a discussion with you. Rob Kien's like, water doesn't curve. Basic geometry principles and the understanding of water level tool prove Earth is not a sphere. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Absolutely correct. The properties of water prove that, we don't live on a curved surface, and any kind of curved surface. And so people want to push the concave and all that. It's like, who cares? Okay. Water, then you have to explain what force is creating that water to curve, even if it's a little bit, even if it's at the edges or whatever. So water just doesn't curve at the edges. If you believe it curves at the edges, then it has to curve everywhere. So you have to, whoever takes that position of a concave Earth or a ball Earth, which is what the other way, when you would say a convex, then you have to explain that. And so the ballers say that it's gravity. And so the concavers need to explain, what is that? What is that force that allows that water to go this way then? So concavers believe that the Earth is like a bowl, okay, which means water would have to bend that way too. You'd have to prove that. And then the ball earthers say that it's like a dome, I guess, or rounded. And so they believe that gravity keeps that water in place, okay, which is just crazy. Like, that's total nonsense. And so, the deception like that, it has to be, propagated by a lot of people. And so for people to understand that God is doing it, okay, because it's not logical for groups, in particular the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites on the street, for them to be ball earthers. That doesn't make sense. Just when you think about that logically, like, they call everybody evil and everything that everybody does evil. And 99% of the time they're correct. They just don't do that to their elders and then themselves, but they're correct most of the time. But they will not say that NASA's evil. One of them literally was wearing a NASA jacket when he was quote prophesying. And I have that video on my channel. And he's one of the like elders in GMS. Like, how does that make sense? Unless God is controlling them to do that based on Job 12:16 and a lot of verses. So they're in on it too. And so that's why they're hush hush on the mark of the beast as well. The Christian church definitely is hush hush on the mark of the beast. So it's all related. Okay. The spinning ball earth and the mark of the beast are essentially 1-to-1. It's almost the same thing. A genuine flat earther is not going to be down with the mark narrative. Okay. Because they're like, God exists. Like, why would I trust anybody else but God? So it's almost 1-to-1. And so most people who had a functioning brain when they were a flat earther, they knew something else was coming, because God's not going to let the lies of the ball earth go unchecked. He's going to identify them and then destroy them. And so we're seeing that happen right before our very eyes. And so people are like, oh no, they haven't made a decision and it's not free will. There is no free will. Okay. That's not what the Bible teaches. Okay. That's your own idea. The Bible does not teach free will. Okay. How can people have free will to be born a liar? Okay. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so the Bible says the wicked are estranged from the womb. They're born liars. Okay. And so that's all they can do is lie. And God programmed them to be that way. 2nd Ezra 8:5, for thou hast agreed to give ear and art willing to prophesy, for thou has no longer space than only to live. And so for thou hast no longer space than only to live. And so let me read the rest of this. Again, I can't say enough about the book of 2nd Ezra. It's incredible. 2nd Ezra 8:5, for not of your own will did you come into the world, and against your will you depart, for you have been given only a short time to live. And so we didn't decide these things. God did. Psalms 58:3, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they are born, speaking lies. And so that's God doing it. Okay. People don't like that, but that's what the Bible says. And it has to be the case, because their lies don't make any sense. Okay. So, it has to be God doing it. And then we would be the lucky ones because we don't believe those lies. That's amazing. Globe earthers' heads will be spinning when Christ cracks those. Yeah, agreed. 100%. So he's going to do a cleanup, because the Bible says he's going to destroy those that destroy the earth. And so they're destroying the earth by making a new earth. They're trying to make their own quote unquote heaven, which is like an atheist heaven. And so that's the thing, and so they're creating their own world, and then they needed atheism because they want to be God. And so they needed to get rid of the flat earth. Manny's saying 27 million light years away is where the black hole is at. Okay. That's funny. Galapagos, people will believe they're in a computer simulation before they accept God as real and control. Yeah, 100%. And that's a lot of flat earthers too. There's quite a few. I would say a majority of the flat earthers are like simulation people and stuff like that. So, it just shows, how deep the delusion is and how broad the lies are, that even the truth community, quote, truth community, are in on it, and surprising to me were the Hebrew Israelites. They'll get angry. I walked past GMS Houston a few minutes ago, and if you go and talk to them about the flat earth, like Kyrie did recently to GMS Arizona, then they'll get angry. They'll be like, why do you want to talk about that? It's like, why don't you want to talk about it? Okay. And so it doesn't make sense. And so it's, they're in on it, and so that's, just know that, and anybody that teaches that and pushes that, then they're preparing themselves for the lake of fire, and we don't care. It's not our decision. And so that's just a very sinister lie. Okay. There's nothing light about withholding the truth of our physical reality. And it could not be more obvious from the Bible where we are, and what it is. So they're without excuse. Israelite Watchman said didn't prove anything. He might be having a conversation with somebody else. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a done deal. I would say, it's that's the thing for people who've come by my channel. If you're a flat earther, if you know the earth is flat and you're a flat earther, and you know that this earth is hell, and you know what the mark of the beast is, then I would say that you're an elite truther. You're an elite truther. And so, wait, who's Grace? Grace through faith? I don't want him to join, man. It's okay. I just wanted to go through these verses. That guy's annoying. And, but anybody else can join if they want to. Just not Grace through faith, because he's stupid. What was I saying? Yeah, if you're a flat earther, okay, and you accept that this physical earth is hell, which all 54 references in the Holy Bible, refer to this earth as hell. And then if you know what the mark of the beast is, then, I would say that, we're spiritually aligned on very, very important things. And then any logical person who accepts those three things, like truly, which again is not very many people, I can think of like a handful at most, then the only thing that would make sense is to ask to be taken out of here, because God's only going to bring more evil. And so that's the times that we live in. And so I don't take comfort in having money for tomorrow or the next day. I don't want to be here, today or tomorrow or the next day or anything like that. So that's the situation I'm in. And it's a very rational reaction to those three truths, much less the other ones: Mystery Babylon, 2 witnesses, and all the other things that God reveals to us. So that's the people that my channel will make sense. If you've come to those three conclusions, then, and they're all related, because only in hell will somebody lie to you about where you are. And then only in hell will somebody want to do something called the mark of the beast. And so they're all related. Okay. Because the flat earth, was hidden by a bunch of lies. And then the mark of the beast is being pushed with more lies. So it's just more and more lies. And then the Christians are in on it. And so are the Hebrews, many of them, not all of them, but that's where we are, and so we're surrounded by our enemies. And so we have no other option at this point but to exit this world on our own or ask for salvation. And so I would assume that we would be taught these truths for salvation. That's my logical reaction to those things. And then, a person who believes those things deeply, you wouldn't want to stay here, or whatever. Like, if something were to happen to you and you're not here anymore, you'd be like, well, that's perfect, because the place is evil, and it's been proven to be evil, and it's not going to stop. You can possibly undo the evils of the mark of the beast, and it's not going to happen, because we see like what's happening in the news, but the next wave and all that kind of stuff. But you cannot undo the evil of the ball earth unless you start everything from scratch. You have to undo all the school systems. You have to undo all the NASA spending. You have to undo atheism. Atheists would have to be deemed crazy, and lunatics, and you wouldn't even take them seriously. Like, they'd have to be either become theists, or you'd have to like put them in some kind of mental institution. And so that's not going to happen. The opposite's going to happen. The people that are theists are going to be put into a mental institution. And we've seen that, and it's only going to get worse. So there's only one of two options at this point. So that's why the flat earth is important, because it pins us in the last days, where we have no other hope except God going upwards, out of here, because the entire earth, a majority of them, are ball earthers. Notice how Russia and Ukraine is fighting, but they both know that the earth is flat. So why is that? And so how come these nations have all these problems when all the nations know truly what the shape of the earth is? So they must just be actors. That's the only conclusion that I can come to. So, it's just me and the people that come by here, the few of us, we're not actors. We are like real people, who don't want to be here. And so, all these governments and military, they know what the shape of the earth is because they're designing weapons to go through that atmosphere. NASA knows what the shape of the earth is. And Rebel Nazarene brought out the documents to prove that NASA knows that. Of course, NASA knows because they're all liars and actors, but the governments know as well, because through their militaries. And so Putin knows that the earth is flat. So does Zelensky, and so does Biden. And so why aren't they telling us that? That's the obvious question that people would ask. Is like, why aren't they disclosing that to us? Well, because they have sinister plans for you, not me, because I'm not going to be here for much longer. And then the few people that come by here have the same mindset as me, but they don't have good things in store for you. Okay. And me or anybody. So that hopefully that's obvious at this point. Okay. That we're surrounded by a majority of actors. And so, the flat earth proves it. The mark of the beast proves it. Mystery Babylon proves it. Everything. So that's what it is. Grace, what's your question, man? Just type it, dude. You're just annoying to talk to. So just type the question and I'll respond. So, I'll answer it. What's your question? Yeah. And a lot of people don't like the flat earth because they know that we're in the end time. So when I bring this out and people don't like it, then that's telling, then they hate God because God made the flat stationary earth. So when people come on or whatever, we interact with them and they're like, I don't want to talk about it, or it's stupid, or you're a flathead, or I don't want to talk about it. Well, you don't want to talk about God's word then. You don't want to talk about Genesis. You don't want to talk about all those different verses that I read. And so you don't want to talk about Joshua, Isaiah, Zechariah, 2nd Ezra, even Revelation 1:7 implies it. You don't want to talk about Daniel, it implies it. You don't want to talk about those. Well, then you hate God then. Okay. So it's like, it's like that's my conclusion. And so then we come to the conclusion that a majority of people on this earth hate God because they hate some or all of his word. And so that's a lot of people. And so that's my vantage point. How are you feeling? Who are you talking to? Grace. I'm feeling fine, man. I just don't want to, if you have a smart question, just say it in the chat and then I'll deal with it. If it's very involved, then, I can have you on, but just what's your question? I've essentially proven it in the Bible. And so now you have to go and debunk the Bible. So anybody out there that's a spinning ball earther, even if you're a quote unquote Christian, you're debunking the Bible then. If you say that we're on a spinning ball, that means that the whole Bible is not true, because I've just demonstrated that the Bible has a position on the shape of the earth. So that's why we always ask people, if you don't believe Mystery Babylon's America, or you don't believe the mark of the beast is what it is and all that, then you're debunking the Bible, the whole thing. So, that's your responsibility. And so why are planets and stars here? Dude, that's your question, man. Oh my God. Give me a break, dude. Thank God I didn't give you a link to get on here. So yeah, just go enjoy your planets and your stars, man. That's cool, man. We just read about the stars, that they're lights in the firmament. So if you believe those CGI images of planets that NASA puts on the internet, then, go enjoy all the other CGI that they give you with rockets going into the water and stuff like that. So, they got you, man. So they got you a hook, line, and sinker. So I'm not answering why NASA produces CGI images, because we know that they're all fake. So maybe you have a better question than that. I guess what I'd ask you, Grace Through Faith, is when they do show images of the earth or video of the earth, where are the satellites? And where are the planes? And where are all the things that are in the sky that should be moving around and orbiting and all that? Where is that? And why is that so hard to produce? And so that'd be the question that I have, and lots of people have. Why do we not have like a real, genuine, live view of our Earth, and that kind of thing? And so that's obviously we know why now, but that's the questions. Those are questions you should be asking. Grace through faith. So we've already asked those questions and come to the conclusion that NASA, which in the Hebrew, if you look up that word nasha, it means to deceive. And so that's clear. And then the people here, we know that not only that is God's controlling them. So God told us, that he's behind the deception. And for us to not take people like that seriously, just laugh at them because they're stupid like you. So do you have another question? Yeah, Orange Grill is like, enjoy the aliens. And that's the next thing. And so that's a great point, because the next thing that's going to happen, all the bald earthers are going to be like, oh, those are aliens from like an exoplanet and from, Zorblat 9 or whatever they said on Saturday Night Live. So they're going to believe that the creator who sends his son back into this realm is an alien before they believe that there is a creator. And, that they will not trust the words of the Bible even then. And so then God's just going to give it, he's going to hit them with everything, the kitchen sink. And hopefully we just get to like laugh at them, just like, how stupid are these people, man? So just read Genesis 1:1, man. I just read Genesis. So, just God fashioned the stars, in that chapter. So maybe you weren't here for the Genesis 1 reading, but in Genesis 1:16, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. So those are two lights, not one. He made the stars also, and listen to this, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And so that's where he put them. So that's what the Bible says. Where is all the space junk that is supposedly floating out? Yeah, exactly. And Elon Musk's car orbiting the Earth or whatever is orbiting. I mean, it's nonsense, dude. It's just horrible acting at this point. And, all we can do is laugh at this point. I mean, it's just stupid. So if they're willing to lie about that, what else are they going to lie about? And so they're going to keep lying. They're going to, if they would stop lying, then we wouldn't have the end times. But they're not stopping. They're sending private flights and private rockets, and they're going to the moon. They're going to colonize the moon and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of thing. Yeah, we don't know what the edge of our thing is. Like, it could be the firmament first, it could be an ice wall first. We don't know, so that's like a bit of speculation. But we clearly live under a dome. And then how far that flat plane goes and what's beneath it, again, we just read in Jeremiah, we don't know. So it's all that's basically speculation. And then people that claim to know with some kind of certainty, then they're Antichrist, because we just read that we don't know that. So they're dead. They're not going to be Bible people. And so that's why all those people go crazy when you bring a certain understanding to them, or you don't know for sure, then they'll go nuts, because like they're deceivers. Like, they're pretending like they know when a lot of them don't even have a functioning brain. They're stupid. I'm thinking of like people like Flat Earth Asshole and those idiots. Like, they're dumb people. They're not intelligent people, even though they know that they're being lied to. They're not Bible people, and they're not intelligent people. I know that water must be contained. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I just picked that from Google. So, just to stir people up. I know that those images make the ballers very upset when they know that we know our reality. And so, or we know what isn't our reality. And so, those images get people upset. A picture of Christ being black gets people upset. And we see that. So lots of things in the Bible get people upset. And I just find it funny because I'm like, well, why does the Bible make so many people angry? It's kind of strange. So, we know what's going on, but that's kind of weird to me. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I got. I guess, it's good. I pretty much by the fact that no bald earther came by, to me is kind of proof that, they're running out of steam. They don't have the same fervor and energy that they did years ago. And I used to go on those debates back in the day on Non Sequitur and Fight the Flat Earth and Godless Engineers channel and all that. And, there'll be like, lots of people making fun of you and this and that. But they would not even have us on their shows anymore because we would absolutely annihilate them and they wouldn't know what we're talking about. Okay. Because we go into the optics, we go into angular resolution, we go into diffraction limit. We would have the black swan. We would have all the other evils that are going on in the world. And then they'll be like, okay, cut the mic. Okay. We're not letting this person talk anymore. And so that's where I made my quote unquote prediction of Christ returning prior to the end of next year. And who would have thought, that is absolutely 100% certain. I can tell you that. I've been a bit squirmy lately a couple of times because I get bored or whatever. But if Christ has not returned prior to the end of next year, the Bible is complete nonsense. And so I'll say that confidently with what we see going on in the world. It's complete nonsense. And so, that's the times that we live in now. With 100% certainty, the Bible is not to be taken seriously in 2024. Not at all. It's just a comic book. So we got Rebel joining. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, T-Mog? How's it going?
Yo, shalom, man.
Shalom, bro. Yeah, good stream, man. This topic is definitely very important. A lot of people think it's, that it's sort of trivial and that it doesn't matter, or, that God wouldn't want us to know about it. But I mean, I like to say that God, part of what makes him the Most High God is that he's the creator, right? Like Genesis 1:1 says, God created the heavens and the earth. And so I think it would only be logical to think that he wants us to have an accurate perspective and representation of his true creation.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because he says that Christ says that if you don't understand earthly things, how can you understand spiritual things? Yeah. So if he's going to tell us that and we don't know our earthly surroundings, then how is he going to tell us about things about the end times and the last days and the UFOs and all that? So it would be contradictory for God to expect us to believe the deeper things, the spiritual things, without the physical first. That's why they're coming in sequence and in order, where the flat earth came out first and then the mark and then the UFO sightings and all that. So it's all like in stages. So Grace Through Face asking, why would Christ return in the next year? Because we're aware of those three truths. That's why Christ has to return. God's on a time limit, not me anymore. And it's not anybody's time limit except God, because the elephant in the room is that we're in a flat stationary realm. We're in hell, and then the mark of the beast is out. So there's nothing left. You think
by next year Christ will return?
I think next year is late, man. If Christ doesn't return on the order of days, I'd be surprised at this point.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, because the mark has gone out to it's over 66% of the world now. And so that's a lot, and so that's what the Bible says, it's going to go out to a majority prior to Christ returning. And then, we're not allowed to like wear a mask and stuff. Even though I do when I go on the thing, but that's not what the elect will do. Okay. They're the type that are so stubborn, they'll die before they even do that, much less the next thing and then the next thing. So that's why I know that it has to be on the order of days.
Yeah, I'm like that. I never once wore a mask except for one time. I had it on for like 2 seconds because they wouldn't like scan your card to go into this gym I go to at the front lobby. But you could take it off right after. But hey, what do you know about the Zohar or Kabbalistic text, the Kabbalah? You know anything about that?
No, I've never read them or know anything really.
But you understand that it's like Babylonian, even Greek inspired Jewish mysticism, right?
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Well, a lot of the you can even say cabal, like how a lot of the conspiracy and evil plans that going around the world with the elite, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, stuff like that. You know, it's all credited to like the quote fake Jews, the
Okay.
Ashkenazis, the Khazars of Israel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they follow the Talmud and they follow the Kabbalah.
Hmm.
Well, just recently I found out that a lot of this modern science of the Big Bang and quantum physics and astrophysics, the scientists that work in that field,
Yeah.
they all admit that it actually it like is or it could be influenced by the Kabbalah.
Okay.
And if you, I mean, I haven't read the Kabbalah, but if you just sort of, it's basically a Jewish form of Gnosticism,
Okay.
that they think God is some kind of mystery that no one, that only a very few select people can understand. And he
Hmm.
doesn't really reveal his literal truth in the Bible. You kind of have to like break it down to some sort of like astrotheological or some kind of, metaphorical sense,
Yeah.
and that through knowledge you can gain your own divinity. Like, they don't really accept Christ and faith in God as like
Yeah.
as their creator and us as the creation, and like the whole
Mhm.
redemption of man thing.
But it's amazing because we see that basically happening where people read it and they think, oh no, I cracked the code and like
Yeah.
this is what, and I'm doing that too ultimately. So it's like we're all doing it, but that's in a sense true, because if there were more consensus on the interpretations, then the Bible wouldn't be labeled that as well. Being like a Gnostic text, which I think I've heard that term before, but
Yeah.
the Bible actually states that it is that kind of a text where very few people will understand it. So let me look up that word actually. I've heard it before, but Gnostic is relating to knowledge, especially esoteric, mystical knowledge. And so, yeah, I mean, all those terms, especially esoteric, is, relates to the Bible for sure, definitely. So um, let's read esoteric. Esoteric is intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. So the Bible is definitely an esoteric text by that definition, 100%. And it's, the flat earth is proof of that, because just getting people on board with the flat earth, that's not a majority, nowhere near. And then when you start adding in the other truths like hell and then the mark and all that, it's fewer and fewer people. And so I've been saying for many, many years that I'd be surprised if more than 5 people come by my channel and, God maybe uses what I say to speak to them of something tangible. And even that number I would say is high, and I'm not bragging, but I've been on YouTube for like 3 or 4 years, 5 years almost now. So it's not many people, and so LOP was kind of putting a joke in the message, one of his messages. You notice how when you don't talk about Christ's skin color, you get like 14 likes or 13 likes, but when you do, you get like 2 or 3 likes. I'm like, that's perfect. Then I know that it's true. If people don't leave any likes, then I'm like, okay, that's true then. So I'm not looking, when I do these kind of debates about flat earth, I'm looking to see if there are other ballers out there, and I notice there aren't any. And so I kind of do it as like, oh, I'm bored, but I was just also doing like an experiment to see how many ballers come forward. Like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, you'd have lots of people come here. Even Fight the Flat Earth used to come by my streams when I would, teach the Bible on the weekends, but he's not going to come here and click the link. He'll get destroyed. And so it's the same with like other truths. When very, very few people like my videos, I don't walk away discouraged. I walk away encouraged. I'm like, okay, well, that was a good one and that kind of thing. So it's inverted, so it's amazing. Galapagos, good to see you, man. But, I don't know.
Hey,
Have you
what's
looked
up?
into those? Rebel, do they have an end times narrative as well, or do they not allude to that in those other texts?
I mean, I'd have to read it to know, but yeah, no. From what the brief um, investigation I've done into it, what I've
Mhm.
gathered is like, yeah, their end times is actually like killing off or wiping out who they refer to as the goyim, like
Okay.
Gentiles,
Yeah.
which ironically speaking, we all know who the true Jews are. So they're actually the Gentiles themselves, but
Yeah.
they just think they're Jews. Um, yeah, they want to wipe those people out, and like And another sick, perverted thing is, they have this concept of like oneness and unity,
Yeah.
and like as above, so below kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one of those things ties into how they actually want to like merge the male and female. So a lot
Mhm.
of this transgender agenda actually comes out of the Kabbalah. Like they
Mhm.
want to make an androgynous person, like,
Okay.
that's gender fluid. You can't tell whether they're male or female.
Right.
And so they're coming up with all these sick, wicked kind of genetic technologies to even like make these people.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what they want to happen. One rabbi of the Talmud and Kabbalah says the Messiah will only come when everybody's either all righteous or all wicked. And
Mhm.
so he said it's easier for everyone to be wicked. So like they're almost doing these evil things to like encourage the Messiah to come.
Yeah. I'm also reading right now on Wikipedia like Islamic eschatology and the things that they're looking for, and they have like 100 of like different things that they also prophesy like in end days, and like the amount of like evil that will increase, and different things. And one of them is very specific about Yemen. The what it says here, fire will come out of Yemen that shall gather all to Mashar al something rather, the gathering for judgment. And then we see right now, what's going on in Yemen. So
Mm.
it's kind of amazing, just the consistencies, like rain will be sent for destruction. Much wine will be drunk, like people will be drunk, and all that kind of stuff, which is similar language as the Bible. So
As in the days of Noah, right?
yeah, exactly. So
Do you subscribe to the Book of Jasher at all?
I think I've read it. Let me actually go and check, but I think I have it in that book that we read earlier. So I've read this entire book, with all the apocrypha. Let me see if it's in here. And so these are the books of the apocrypha that I've read, and I found the sequence in most of these: Tobit, Judith, Wisdom, Sirach, Baruch, First and Second Maccabees, Third and Fourth Maccabees, First and Second Ezra's, Prayer of Manassas, Enoch, Jubilees, Jasher, Esther, Psalm 151, and Daniel has an extended version. So yeah, I think in Jasher, let me check. So the reason I went through that is to find the sequence of the end times. And so, I found it as well, in a lot of those books. But yeah, and then it
Yeah,
was
well,
in Joshua.
I brought up the Book of Jasher because you can see in the fourth chapter, it actually details a big reason why the Most High God had to flood the earth of all its evil and wickedness, back in Noah's day in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at verse 18, it's a big verse, but let me see.
Yeah, I'll pull
Um,
it up.
you want to pull it up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have the exact same version, but I can
Right.
read it because, this one is its own kind of unique thing. But if you give me the quote, I can go to it.
Mine starts with like, and their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, took their women by force from their men, according to their choice.
Wait, you're in 19?
I'm in I'm in chapter Jasher 4 and
Oh,
18.
okay, Jasher 4 and 18. Okay.
Yeah, it talks about something that people
Yeah,
like
I got that too. Yeah.
when Genesis 6 or whatever talks about how all flesh was corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Jasher 4:18 gives you a more detailed account of what it meant by the corruption of the flesh.
Yeah.
You want to read that for us?
Yeah, Jasher 4:18. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force from their husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth and the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species with the other, in order therewith to provoke the Lord. And God saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all the flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, and all men and all animals. And the Lord said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from man to the birds to the air of the air, together with cattle and beasts that are in the field, for I repent that I made them. And all men who walked in the ways of the Lord died in those days, before the Lord brought the evil upon man, which he had declared for his ways. For this was from the Lord, that they should not see the evil which the Lord spoke of concerning the sons of men. And Noah found grace in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord chose him and his children to raise up seed from upon them, upon the face of the whole earth.
Amen. So,
But dude, that's amazing, because notice here what it says, and taught the mixture of animals of one species.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to.
Right. That's deep, man.
Like, so when we see those depictions of like the centaurs, which is like a half man, half horse.
Yeah.
Or like all these other,
and
like,
the Baphomet.
There you exactly. Yeah. And all these other depictions that we see in ancient archaeology of what we thought to be just mythological sort of creatures.
Yeah.
Well, according to the book of Jasher, this might have actually been genetic technology that was going on, that they were mixing DNA between species that shouldn't have been mating with each other, and they were creating these wicked abominations.
Yeah. And we see that now, because they're mixing essentially man and beast, so to speak, with like what they're putting in those things. It's like, animal stuff.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and it's like the mixture of like man and machine as well.
Transhumanism, that comes from the Kabbalah as well.
Yes. All those narratives are essentially being fulfilled with what's going on now. So it's incredible that it just shows, again, all the same things. The only difference, this is what the Bible calls the first death, is by water. The Bible calls the second death by fire.
Amen.
And so it looks like it's the same stuff. It's like the evil is gone everywhere. And it's here. The thing that's important is that it says here, saw the whole earth and it was corrupt. So God wouldn't destroy the whole earth unless the whole earth was corrupt.
Right.
And so if like there were a few countries on earth that weren't corrupt, I don't think God would have an end times. He would just put the souls there that don't want to be a part of the evil, and then they would be okay. So this is very telling, that this is exactly the same thing that's going on. Look at what it says here. It also talks about adultery. Listen to this. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men. So in the judges or rulers, you can think in modern day, we have our judges and our rulers who promote adultery, and took their wives by force from their husbands according to their choice. And so what they're doing now, especially with Israelites, they're taking the man out of the household, and then they can pretty much own the women and get them to do whatever they want. And so it's all just modern day corporatism, and enslavement. And so it's the same kind of thing, that they may be not taking their wives for themselves in this case. Some maybe, but they're essentially breaking up the family, that kind of thing. And so that's very clear. Like even in rap music, like they glorify like adultery, like, oh, I took, your woman and this and that. And like, it's like, that's like cool now or whatever. And so
like that one Tupac song that like, it starts out like, and that's why he's like, that's why I effed your bitch.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With Biggie, right? Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. And so, you don't have people coming down, and doing that, but all those souls would be here on this earth right now. All the people that were doing all this are back here on this earth through reincarnation. So they're just going to be doing that. Maybe they'll have a suit and a tie on, and they'll be a governor now, because it says right here, and their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men. And so the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. And so in modern day, what are the judges? They'll be the governors, the lawyers, and all that. So yeah, that's amazing, man. I've read it. I think I kind of scanned this mostly to find the sequence, but it's deep, man. I would highly recommend, I have this book for people out there, The Complete Apocrypha. And I didn't find anything in there that, was inconsistent or weird or anything. It's you got to keep an open mind. I didn't see anything in Enoch. Like we read Enoch 22 earlier. I didn't see anything in there that was unusual.
Right.
It's just, there are portals, they're holding places that God has. And it just reaffirms that there's an order for everything, and God has made all these different places where to hold people. And the Bible says, all those verses I just read, he made our body to hold our soul. So, he's got everything preset. It's amazing.
Yeah, man. All thanks and praise to the Most High God of Israel.
Yeah, I may go through the Bible once more. We'll see. I may go through this again. But it's a lot. For people to look at this, it's like it's pretty thick, so it takes some time. But I would definitely recommend for people who are into the Bible, start with 1st and 2nd Ezra for sure. LOP is like, yeah, not the thing that Christ is blackhead less likes because it's false, not because it's true. No one believes that except a few people. Yeah, that's good. That's the whole point. if it was true and a lot of people believed it, then I'd be suspicious of it. So
Yeah,
that
right.
is my point, that it is only meant for a few people. And it's a hidden thing. It's like it's in enough verses that it's not that hidden, but the flat earth is not very hidden in the Bible because that's like a small sample of the number of verses that are in there about the flat earth. But you don't even need the Bible to even prove that Christ is dark skin. You just know that by biology. So that's just, it's not even like it is a religious thing as well, but it's just common sense. It's like, that's just the way it is. And so, I just find it funny when people don't like it. Like, I just find it amusing. And then it's like bad news. Like, if you ask the everyday average quote unquote white evangelical Christian or any Christian in America, if you tell that to them, they'll be horrified and they'll be like, what? It's like you just ruined their whole day, their life. They'll be like, no way that that's the case, because then they'll realize that the people that they've been oppressing and making fun of are actually God's chosen people. And then the last will be first and the first will be last. And that offends them and scares them. And it should, because that's literally going to happen. So, for us, we don't have any issues with that because we don't have any hangups on race or anything like that, or color. It's like, that makes sense. And we don't want to see oppression. So, but for people who are benefiting from that oppression, it offends them, and as it should. So
that's why Paul in Romans 11, the chapter about the Gentiles being grafted in, he says, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou will say then, the branches were broken off that I may be grafted in. So yeah, he's predicting a situation where these Gentiles would boast against the branches, who are the natural Israelites, who we know to be, at least the Negroes,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that God does these things to create all these like provocations and jealousy and all that, because that's all by design, and so that's also why I feel that the flat earth is brought out by largely what people would call white people. And so that's another thing where God would use that to humble, the quote unquote Hebrew Israelites, but they're not humbled by it. Like, they don't care. And so it's like, they need to explain that, like, why, if they're all evil and Esau and of the devil, like, why are they bringing out an important truth like the flat earth? I'm not saying they're all white people, but like a majority of them. So like, that's the cool thing about what God is doing, is that he's literally using all people to bring out truth. And so we're supposed to go to all the different groups and learn from them, but don't take the whole group as gospel, because a majority of the flat earthers are simulation people. They're total fruitcakes. And then a majority of the Hebrew Israelites, they want to beat us over the head for some reason in the kingdom, when like we didn't do anything. Like, it was their fault that they're in slavery. I didn't put them in slavery. They put themselves in slavery, according to what the Bible says. So why do I have to get beat over the head? If I was standing there on the shores of Africa, I'll be like, don't go on that ship, because like, why would you go? That's what I would tell people. Like, why are you going on that ship? You're an idiot. You just go die if you don't want to. Like, you're not going to be in a good situation. And then they clearly went, and so it's not my fault. Anybody with like half a brain would be like, no, I'm not getting packed like a sardine on a slave ship. No, that doesn't sound like a good. I don't even like going in a car with like too many people in it. It gets uncomfortable for me. So like, why would I jump on a slave ship? That's disgusting. Right. And so they went and trusted their enemies. So we're not supposed to listen to people who trust their enemies. It's the same with this narrative. You can't take anybody seriously who's like prophesying when they're wearing that, which a lot of them do. That doesn't make sense. That means they're trusting in their enemies. So we got to go here a little, there a little, the kind of thing, So it's amazing. It's actually not, it's kind of nice actually, because you get to go to all these different groups, and then you get to take the best of what they're teaching and then make your own, truth, put it all together with God, of course. LOP, why are you here, man? There's nothing insane about God being on earth and having a particular skin color. I know that it's not good news for you, But like, why are you keep constantly pushing that? Do you honestly think we're going to change our mind? We are focusing on Christ's words, man. That's what Christ's words say. He comes in the volume of the book, okay, which is what we quote a lot. And in that volume of the book, okay, it states what he would look like, okay? So what on earth are you talking about? Okay, before I block you permanently, just shut up, okay?
No,
You're
let
not
him.
going to bring any kind of deep understanding here that we haven't already thought about. And if you are, why aren't you presenting that on your channel? Why are you making stupid songs and nonsense and whatever the hell you do? Why don't you go teach what you want to teach on your channel? Why don't you do that? Why don't you educate people on what the mark of the beast is instead of making stupid music and whatever the hell you do? Why don't you make some videos about that? You're too busy to do that, but you definitely have time to come here and rant about how Christ is not dark skinned. Why don't you go and care about people and use your channel and the thousands of subs you have to actually educate people on what the mark is? Okay. So why don't you do that? Why don't you do that right now? Okay. How hard is it?
Let me just answer Locke real quick. I mean, I kind of see what he's trying to say with the whole flesh thing. Like, God does care more about what's in our heart and spirit. But the reason why T-Mog and I and other people, bring it up as a point of discussion is the fact that, who we know as Jesus Christ, who the world knows as Jesus Christ. I like to use, Yeshua the Messiah, is most commonly depicted as this, blue-eyed,
Yeah.
blonde, light brown hair, white, almost pale skin white man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an idol.
Yeah,
Right.
if you go to any church in America, or
Yeah.
even down in Africa,
Yeah.
you have the darkest of people worshiping a white man as an idol.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
The second commandment already says not to make any graven images of anything on the earth or above in heaven or under the earth. So that's number one.
Right.
So making that image is already breaking it.
Yeah.
So, but now that there is that image, and anytime your regular Sunday church goer Christian, average Christian, like closes their eyes to think about praying to Jesus, they're gonna immediately, visualize this white man in their head, right? So
Yeah.
the reason why we're bringing it up is to say, okay, if they have this image, we're going to look to the Bible to see how he may be described or what can be applied from it. And clearly we can see that the children of Israel were a dark-skinned people. They were likened to the Egyptians, and the ancient Egyptians, being the seed of Ham, were a dark people.
Yeah.
We see that Christ was hid amongst the Egyptians, so he had to look like them. We see in the book of Acts, chapter 21, verse 38, that Paul, from the tribe of Benjamin, was mistaken for an Egyptian.
Right. Exactly.
So when we see things like this, we can conclude that Christ indeed was a black man.
Correct. 100%.
So, that's all we're saying here. It's not that it's a big issue. We're just refuting this white image that has
Correct.
been perpetrated all throughout the world.
Exactly. I think it's just as wrong to have. It was funny. I was watching a TV show with like a crime show, and the woman lost her son, and it was a quote unquote black woman, and like she had a blanket on her thing with white Jesus. She literally had a big blanket with white Jesus right beside her. And I'm like, you're a dark skinned woman and you have a freaking picture of white Jesus on your damn blanket. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree. Setting up false representations of dark skinned Jesus is also not correct either. And so, and pushing that out there, because that will get people in their mind brainwashed to like be obsessively about that particular depiction. But to put a vibration out there that image is false, and then to put better representations out there, or at least people to consider in their mind, is required, for sure, because in the very least it gets you to put away that old idol and then start from scratch, and just, okay, let's understand what the Bible says and where the Jews will be, which is the most important thing. So if Christ is dark skinned, it doesn't mean that every single person in Israel is not a real Jew, but a majority of them are not. And we know that anyway, but for a lot of other reasons. But that's why it's important in terms of end times. And then we'd have to explain, how can God have an transatlantic slave trade how can God have a spinning ball earth and not care about it? He'd have to tell us that he's behind the deception, and he does. And so if he has a transatlantic slave trade, that has to be in the Bible somewhere. It's like, how can you read a book with all that devastation and be like, you know what? I forgot about that. Whatever. Who cares? Like, bad luck for them. Or like, what kind of God would that be? Like, he doesn't care about that. Like, that's crazy. And
well,
so
Perry said he's just sitting on the throne, just chilling.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Perry's living his best life, man. We were hoping that he would have a live stream. I was going to try and get on, but he moved it for 2 days from now. But I don't think he's going to let us on anymore, man. Like he had enough of us. So it's too bad. I wanted to ask about the two witnesses, but
and if the appearance of what Christ looks like didn't really matter. I mean, we all know that he was a man that walked the earth. So yes, he had to have a skin color.
correct.
And if it didn't really matter, then the Most High wouldn't talk about what he looked like in the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse 6.
Right.
His body also was like the beryl.
Yeah.
And if you look into this word beryl into the concordance, I forget the word, but it alludes to a yellow jasper. And then when you look up that stone, it can be like a very dark brown color. Okay.
Yeah.
And it also says, and his face has the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in the color to polished brass.
Right.
And the voice of his words were like the voice of a multitude. So just in one verse, we're getting a very sort of detailed, account of what Christ looks like. If it didn't really matter to God, he wouldn't have mentioned it at all.
Agreed. And if it doesn't matter, then why does it matter? Like, why do people get all bent out of shape about it? Like, okay, just people could just move on from it. But by people's reaction, we know that, we're onto something. And again, we don't need that reaction, but it's the same with the flat earth. When you bring flat earth out to people and they start getting all, oh, you're a flathead, you're dumb, and this and that. We're like, okay, well, either we're dumb or it's true. So one or the other, and we're not dumb, and we know that. So it can't be that at this point, definitely. So it's kind of the same thing. It's it is what it is. I hate that saying, but it is what it is. Sacramento, what's up, dude?
Yo, what's cracking, man? Can you hear me?
Did you see me on Perry's Hangout?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, no, I seen half of it, but I was at work, so I didn't get to see it.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I find his Hangouts entertaining. Like, I find him genuinely entertaining. Like, he's funny as hell. When he gets on with IDL and they have a back and forth, dude, he just rips them apart, dude. It's funny. But
I was just watching one of his streams yesterday, and they were just going off on each other. Like,
yeah,
I forgot what what verse Perry was reading, but IDL was arguing with him that it was referring to a historical event, and then Perry was just jumping on IDL, calling him Satan, and was like, it was like, but do you sin? Do you sin? Do you just answer the question? And IDL is like. It's like, all right.
Yeah. He's funny, though, man. He's roasting him. He's like, you don't care about the Old Testament. You don't care about the New Testament. You don't care about any of these words. Because, once IDL gets on there and he's like, oh, you don't understand the Hebrew. You don't know the original language. He's like, well, you don't even care about this book. So he totally, roasted him. And it's funny. It's kind of like your two enemies kind of fighting each other. So,
dude, it would be kind of funny to just see, IDL and Perry, those kind of people on an island and them just fucking go at it.
Oh, it'd be sick. I'd actually go pay-per-view on that. I would definitely pay to watch that 100%. And so I mean, obviously disagree with Perry on almost everything, but at debating and having an answer, he comes up with one. Even when ETT asked him about hell, he's like, oh no, you're not ready for that. And so he knew that was coming and he doesn't want to talk to us about that. But that was his answer. Oh, you don't even know the basics and you want to go to hell and stuff like that. So he's clever, man. So he's annoying, but he's clever. But I wanted to ask him about the two witnesses because he believes that they are two men, which I don't know how anybody could not believe that at this point. But that's what I wanted to know. Maybe
have you seen where people are saying that the two witnesses are two nations?
Yes, I am familiar with that. What do you think about that, Sacramento?
You know what, man? I really don't know what to think about it.
You said it might be Enoch, right? Or one of them?
Yeah, the possibility. That's what I've always heard as.
Okay.
It being two men, it was either Enoch and Elijah, but then you said Moses and Elijah, and there's a couple other people that say that too.
Yeah.
But
I was reading John 1 earlier, and then John 1 also alludes to that as well. But it's not something I would say somebody's like evil or anything. If they said they're in Jerusalem, like he says, I'm going to say that you're mistaken. But if people had different understandings on who they are, I can't prove it, but I know they're not two nations, which I don't accept. I'm actually wondering where they even came up with that. Like, why not just, if you don't know, like the people of One West, why not just say it's just what it is? Just read it. So,
I actually got a question for you. So this is something that I came across like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's a claim by the Hebrew Israelites, but they support it. And it's kind of the reason why they use the KJV Apocrypha and the Bible itself, that version alone, is that they came to the conclusion that King James was a so-called black man. Have you ever heard of that?
Wait, say that once more.
King James, they claim that he was black.
Yes. I have heard that claim, yes. They claim pretty much everybody in human history is black, like Shakespeare, King James. I mean, everybody. Like,
yeah, and here's what's interesting though is that while I was looking that up, I came across something that mentions that the KJV Bible was written by William Shakespeare. It's something to do with the 42nd Psalms or something like that. It said, and shake and spear are coded within it from like 46 verses words down and up. So you'll find shake and spear in that. You ever heard of that?
No, I haven't, but I've definitely heard the claim that pretty much I think it was some documentary guy, Louis something, who visited the Hebrew Israelites in New York, and he went down a list of all and I'll try and find that clip later and maybe I'll mirror it, but he's like, the first time he's ever heard any of this kind of stuff. And he went down a list of like people in history and he's like, was this person black? They're like, yeah. This person? Yep. They're like, everybody is black. And I was like, wow. Like when I watched that for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this person's insane. But I mean, obviously now I would be more inclined to believe that.
Shakespeare didn't even exist. He was made up.
That again. I don't know.
I don't believe that. I think he existed.
It was other writers that wrote Shakespeare, but they couldn't.
Every character in history, I would
just
question.
Like Hemingway.
No, Shakespeare is William. What is his name? Francis Bacon. That's his name.
I've heard somebody. Yeah, I've heard that that's a Masonic folklore.
I tend to. Well, if they're saying it,
I'm not saying
no reason to not believe
I'm
it.
Sure though. I'm just saying that's what I've heard.
But I would say even along the lines of religion, like I don't necessarily, we can't prove that Christ existed until he returned. So I'm not.
They got historical facts to prove that he existed.
I know, I understand that, but I'm just saying, because people, even like with talking about Mike and people about the New Testament being fake, like we need that to be proven definitively as well, and so it applies to everybody.
Well, even if the New Testament was corrupted, Jesus still did exist.
Correct, but
there's plenty of that proof.
But now the question, that's true, but the question would be, is he a prophet or is he the son of God? Then
there you go. That's the $1 million question.
But I would say if he's not the son of God, I wouldn't even consider him a prophet. I would consider him a lunatic. He'd be out of
Christian How did you feel when you found out you weren't one of the elect? Serious question.
He's talking to you, Sacramento. He's talking to you, man. How did you feel when you were de-elected?
I've never thought I was de-elected. I still think that I am the elect.
I know you are. I'm just messing with you. How did I feel?
No, Sacramento, you're Moses, dude.
I was watching FlatEarth Boxer's live stream.
I've never felt like Moses. I felt like more of like John the Baptist.
You can't be John the Baptist. You're not angry. I'm angry. I could be John the Baptist.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah,
you're not angry enough.
Right, exactly.
You don't have
until you can breathe fire out of your mouth like ETT did with those Packy chips. I don't believe it, man. Like
I wanted to ask you, T-Mog. This is something that I came across on one of these Jewish Kabbalah websites. I believe it's that, but it's something like that. It's written by Jewish people, and they tend to believe in reincarnation. They believe that the prophets are other people later on.
Yeah, that's good.
And
it just shows that they know what's going on, man. They keep that.
And here's what they presented is that they presented that Abraham is actually Abel and his brother is Cain, or somebody is Cain. I forgot who it was. I think they said Jethro or something
Okay.
like that. But
Yeah.
what would you take on that? Do you think Abraham could be Abel? I mean,
The only one that I state firmly is the Moses and Elijah one, and then that Daniel and Ezra are the same. But I wouldn't go beyond.
Oh, I heard that one too.
Yeah.
I thought it was Elijah and John the Baptist.
Yeah,
no,
so
that's somebody. Yeah,
so
those are different.
I meant like in the reincarnation, the two witnesses are going to be Moses and Elijah. But
yes.
Sorry, that one, no one argues. That's actually true, like according to what Christ said. But I would say those. I don't really know of the other ones, and to speculate on that would be a stretch. Like, you know, people will sometimes even say Obama is like this king in the reincarnation. I mean, he's one of them, but like how do we know?
Ooh, yeah, that's what I believe. I believe Obama is actually the Babylonian king Nimrod reincarnated in the last days.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I subscribe to.
Right, and it wouldn't surprise me because we're in modern day Babylon, so one of those souls have to be here, again. So it could be Bush or.
So who's Biden?
Someone's going to counter that and say that it's Trump or something.
Yeah,
Trump,
because
Trump
he has like I think it's like the 66th floor or something like that in his Trump hotel. He has like Apollo and all these weird symbols in his room.
Yeah, on the ceiling. I seen.
Yeah.
It. Do you know he owned the building 666?
Yeah, for sure, man.
No, that's his son-in-law.
Was that Jared Kushner? 666.
Yeah, Jared Kushner.
He owned it and then he sold it to him. His son-in-law.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But then I think they took the number down because people started knowing what 666 meant. So they they didn't do it that way. So it started becoming more obvious.
Trump's involved. He's a deceiver.
Yeah, we know that 100%. Yeah. Guaranteed.
Playing the good guy.
Yeah, and I don't even know. You can't really be a good guy now when the whole thing is crumbling. So one person can't fix it. So I don't even understand that. Like,
what could be the Antichrist? Who knows?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like it's really anybody could come as masquerading around as like being great and all that. It's too late for that, in my opinion. Especially if people live in America, like it's.
Yeah, but I think Trump could be the one because I'll explain quickly. If he ever does get back in office, and he brings America back just the way it was, normal.
Yeah.
And then he starts to go throughout the world because everybody in the world loves Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to fix other countries.
Yeah.
He could be the guy because it says he's going to be loved by everyone.
If that happens, I would actually say the Bible's not true. So there's no Antichrist. It's just the Bible's not true because here's my point. Because the Bible says that more and more destruction is going to happen. So if somebody comes and undoes that evil, then it'll be like, well, the Bible's not true then.
I got what you're saying.
Isn't the Antichrist supposed to bring peace?
Yeah,
is what they say.
There's no end that. So I've done a video debunking that. The only notion.
I totally get that, but their idea is that they believe an Antichrist will bring world peace.
Yes, correct.
So you believe in just Antichrist as many?
Yeah. Well, it says that.
But
what do they call it? What do they call it? Like the false peace or something? There's going to be a time of.
Well, yeah, that's what it would be.
Like reunification or something.
Well, maybe the Vatican is the Antichrist.
Galapagos, is that language they have, or that's in the Bible? Because in Daniel,
that's what they present.
That's what they believe. That's the language they use.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's. I think they would say,
They say the Antichrist is supposed to bring peace, while Christ is actually supposed to bring destruction.
ETT said the mark of the beast is going to bring peace. And so, because I was asking him, I was like, yo, how is your God going to return when there's eating and drinking and giving in marriage? He said, oh, no, they're going to implement the microchip and then everything's going to go back to normal. That's his position. And he said that on our debate. That's why I was like, dude, man, come on.
It's pretty funny.
How on earth is a microchip going to be the thing? I'll buy the Christian narrative before that. Like Trump comes back and fixes everything. I'll believe that before.
Dude, I just don't understand how we're supposed to go through the Great Tribulation and survive.
Yeah, dude, Galapagos, suck it up, man. Get ready for it, man.
ETT gave me a whole list, man. He said, get $100, go to Dollar Tree, buy beans, buy lights, batteries, all this and that. He gave me the ETT survival guide.
Yo, dude, ETT, you got to click the link to defend yourself. But their position is that when Christ says he's going to be returning when they eat and drink and giving in marriage, that's after the Great Tribulation. So, and he said the microchip is going to be bringing that verse to fulfillment. I'm like, how? no one's first of all going to take a microchip at this point, but that doesn't make sense. And so his Trump, quote unquote, Trump is the microchip, which is complete nonsense. So like, that's completely ridiculous. So no.
What do you think about Jurassic Liar saying that Elvis is actually the Antichrist?
I don't know what he's talking about, dude. Like, yeah, I mean,
dude,
that just sounds
T-Mark, I know you just joked and said like, you know, Trump's the MOTB, but there's actually people out there that believe that Trump is possibly the MOTB because in one of his videos he said, I am the V, or I am the
chosen.
yeah.
What the
there's people out there that are actually running with that.
I have it. He says
there's
I am the chosen one. He says
there's Jews that believe he's actually the Messiah they're waiting for.
Oh yeah, they have like a coin of him, his face next to some other person. I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
And on the back it's like the third temple or something.
Wow.
Some crazy shit.
That's wild, dude. Like, I mean,
he tweeted something like that on Twitter regarding the third temple. You ever see that?
No, I don't follow. I actually, dude, I used to have Twitter just to follow him when he first got elected, but I don't go on Twitter anymore. But
they banned him off of Twitter.
Okay. He wasn't really saying anything controversial. He's still part of the narrative. He's still part of the Corolla. He's pushing that.
He'll be back on Twitter. Elon Musk owns it now.
If he's doing anything
Does he?
revolutionary, why isn't he not saying anything revolutionary?
He has the most shares. He's the majority shareholder.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit.
that's
He owns like 10%.
Twitter is a joke, though, dude. It's crumbling. It's not a legitimate company.
I think it already did crumble.
Right.
Yeah, it's going down the
I
toilet.
think they'll lie about their numbers, how many people they have.
The whole city of San Francisco is a complete shithole now. Actually, like Twitter, I believe, is in downtown San Francisco.
It totally is. Because I used to drive through there. You see all these homeless dudes.
Right.
I seen a half naked dude riding a bicycle on the freeway.
Jeez.
I seen a guy take a shit and then drink water using the same hand that he wiped himself with. So it's like it's some nasty stuff out there, man.
Dude, the homeless people are actually really smart though. Like at least I saw a video in California, and I don't know if it was in that area or what, but they had like a whole block of homeless people.
Yeah.
And one of the homeless people, his tent was right next to a street light. And he had like a whole, he had electricity inside of his tent, man. He had like a whole crib going, everything. Yeah. And what he was doing was he was stealing electricity from the street light.
That's brilliant, dude. That's wild, man. I don't know. I don't look down on them.
Some of them are really crafty.
Yeah, in terms of living on the land and all that stuff's cool. But I saw a dude downtown taking a full blown shower over a water fountain. First of all, it's disgusting because somebody else made a drink out of that, and so it was totally gross. But as far as people getting off the grid and all that, I'm like that.
I've seen people in Miami because I lived there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And they have apartment buildings made out of refrigerator boxes.
That's insane.
I mean, the guy had 5-room, a 5-room apartment made out of 5 different refrigerators. He had a living room. He had
I saw a dude.
Kitchen,
I saw a guy in San Francisco or San Diego rent a U-Haul truck and live in that because rent was so expensive, and he was making good money, and he was actually doing pretty well. So he found a place to park it. And then he lived inside of the U-Haul truck, and so it's insane, dude.
Well,
dude, I'm not even trying to. Dude, I'm not even trying to sound funny, but like homeless people and people that just got out of prison, they're on a whole they're in a whole different world, mentally. I remember there was a Burger King in Galveston opened up, and I went there with a friend. Long time ago, and there was a homeless guy that came up to me, and he was like, "Hey man, I just got out of jail. Can I use your phone real quick?" And nowadays I would have been no, but back then, I didn't know anything. I was just oh yeah, whatever. Here, you can use my phone. And I'm thinking he's gonna fake call somebody and just start speaking gibberish. But no, he actually called someone, and he was talking to a woman, and he was arguing with her, saying that she needs to hurry up and pick him up. And he was like, "All right, screw it, I'm walking." And I'm like, no way. And he's like, I'm walking to Texas City. And for those that don't know, I live in Galveston. The only way off here is really the Causeway. And then Texas City is it's a whole other county over. It's far.
Yeah.
And this guy was saying that he was going to walk over there. And I'm telling my friend, I'm like, there's no way he's going to do that. And sure enough, I look at him. He walks out the Burger King, goes straight into oncoming traffic, and just starts walking across the bridge like nothing.
Yeah.
And that's illegal, by the way. But dude, this guy was just on another level, man. Like
most of them are on another level. But if you think about it, if you were sane and you became homeless, you have no responsibility. You're probably in peace almost.
That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't seem as outlandish, you know, than in the past for sure. Like getting in this system and this like speed system is completely like ridiculous.
There's going to be plenty of normal people homeless soon. Don't worry.
What's that?
Where my son lives, there's a place. My son would go there sometimes and just drop bags of groceries. There's a place that's like a tent city, and there's like 100 tents, and people live in a tent, and that's it. They don't have money, they don't have jobs, nothing, and they they look more happy than us.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Stressed out just to pay our rent.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that's popping up here in Houston, man. You go downtown and drive underneath the highways, and you see them. There's like pretty big communities, you know, like people. So.
There was like a famous one over there in downtown Houston. I forgot where exactly it was, but it was on an underpass, and it was just the whole underpass was just tents everywhere, and it was like a whole homeless community. I think Abbott tried cracking down on it.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot actually. Like there's a McDonald's near me that just a bit bougie. I don't eat at McDonald's anyway, but I don't want to eat at that one because it's pretty much like homeless people. There's like a shooting not long ago and stuff, and it's like then there's a Greyhound station nearby, which tends to attract even more homeless people. So
hey, that's like where I live.
Right. That's where I live in downtown Houston, amongst those two places. So.
You know,
there
was
was
really
a shooting
evil.
right where I worked too the other day.
Was that near you, man?
Yeah, it was. Well, I don't live near it, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I work like literally down the block from where that happened. Like you go down like one street and then bam, like I'm right there. Wow. And what's crazy though is that sometimes I'll get off around like 12:30, 1:30, and it happened at like 1:30 between 2 a.m. in the morning, and like that's when I get off around that time. So. They chase people down the street too, like shooting them. So
I've thought about it though. Like if I was homeless, I would, hustle up just like, a few dollars a day, like, beg practically. And I would join a gym for $20 a month and go in there and take showers every day. I would I get a Costco card and go there and eat all the samplers all day. Make believe I'm shopping. As long as you don't look like a bum, they're not going to bother you. If you act, I would.
Hey, Pops, you're actually onto something, because I was watching videos a while back, and it was like people that live in really expensive areas. Like, let's say they have a good job, like working in an office in like New York or something, yet they can't afford the rent. What they do is they essentially turn their vehicle into a home. They like rig it a certain way. They'll live in a van or something. And they do that. Like I was watching one guy, and he lived in California, and what he did was he would park and like in neighborhoods that were heavily populated, that always had cars parked on the side of the road, so he wouldn't stand out. And he had like dark tents on his car, like blinds in there, and he did the same thing. He joined a gym, and like he would just go in there, work out, and he would take showers. That's how he would do that. And I guess the most expensive thing for him was he would basically, he'd have to eat out every day, but that was it.
You join Costco and just go in there and eat all the samples.
It just shows though, like our rent is like the biggest vice for us. Like if we didn't have to pay absurd rent, then you could kind of like just, live life and not have to work like crazy number of hours. And
in a lot of other countries, it's like that. I lived in the Dominican Republic for 5 years.
Yeah.
My maid, I paid her $250 a month. I actually only had to pay her $200, but I overpaid her, and I gave her an extra $50. So I gave her $300. She lived better than most people in America. She had a nice house, paid for. She had nice furniture, and her husband worked. He probably made like $300-400 a month too. They didn't make a lot of money in those countries.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I said I paid her $250, I meant a month, not a week.
Yeah.
So
that's what it should be. Rent should be around $200 or $300 or $400. Like
they pay no tax on their house. There's no taxes. If your house is worth under $160,000 in that country, you don't pay tax. So only the rich pay tax.
Yeah.
And
You could probably get a pretty decent apartment in Russia for $200 a month.
oh, you could get an apartment on the water, okay, right on the beach for $200 a month in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, Dominican's cool, man.
Wow.
And it
I
just
had
shows,
a house, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. It was
Yeah.
a mansion. It was $1 million house in America, at least.
and
And
Pop,
I was
some of
paying
those places
$500 a
don't-
month.
and some of those places don't charge you like capital gains tax, so like they don't rob you when you invest wisely, and so only in America do you get.
You know
absurd
where? You know how they do it in the DR? They don't charge taxes. Only like when you go to the store, you'll pay like we pay 8% on a TV.
Yeah.
They pay 14.
Okay.
So that's how the country makes. They charge a little extra.
Yeah. Goods and
But
services.
you know
tax.
what? If you got the money and you're buying the toys, you pay the tax.
Right. Exactly.
If you
Exactly.
don't have the toys, then you don't pay no tax.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. It should be based on how much you use. Like,
right. How
that
much
makes
you
sense.
consume.
Right. And so that's the same with like, infrastructure, people that travel and do more things and all that kind of stuff, like they should be paying more of the taxes. Like the poor that use public transportation and don't use the highways and fly everywhere, like they shouldn't pay as much of the taxes.
But it's funny when you said the U-Haul truck, because I'll tell you a quick story. So I had a good friend of mine lived across the hall from me. I had an apartment in Miami. So I was moving out. I rented a U-Haul truck, put all my furniture in there.
Yeah.
He was moving out. We put all his furniture in there. I had an apartment, that I was going to, but he didn't. And I was like, yo, we should just live in this U-Haul truck, both of us.
Yeah.
It's furnished.
Yeah.
But I was going to make a movie on it. And then as I was driving around in the movie, would pick up like a prostitute, right? And she would live in the U-Haul truck. I pick up a bartender. He'd live in the U-Haul truck. And then we were going to go around, make it a party truck. Like it was going to be like a comedy, a little off the religious category, but I was going to make it real funny, and I was going to call it U-Haul It, and get U-Haul It to sponsor me.
Jeez.
I had the whole script.
That's insane, man. I wouldn't be surprised, man. More people are.
But if you want to park in a safe
kind of
place, you park in Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, and
I noticed that too. Some people park their trailers in there.
They're allowed to. Walmart lets you park in their lot. They're smart. You know why? You'll
use their store.
In the morning, what do? Right? Yeah. Boom. You go get breakfast, coffee, this, that. So that's why Walmart's very smart.
Yeah. And they have tons of space. Like, it's not a big deal, And I think,
and
if I were to go back in time, like, we used to look down on people who, like, lived in trailer parks and trailer homes, but those people are geniuses. Like, they're the ones who are the smart ones and, like, got off the grid and then figured out a way to live, like, on a, with a low profile, low overhead cost. And then the nice thing about those, you can hook them up and then you can move if you want. You can travel around and you can live in different states and all that kind of stuff. So
I think if the religion was different, okay, I would be an Amish. I think the Amish people are flourishing.
Yeah, agreed. They figured it out, man. We got suckered into this city living and then we're totally hosed now. But I mean, we can't change that now at this point. But
I would love to have a horse. How would a car?
Yeah, I mean,
love to have a horse.
I think we realized that this whole city living, this 40-hour, 50, 60-hour work week thing doesn't make any sense. Like, if you own your own farm or you work on somebody's farm, you don't work 8 hours a day. You maybe work like a few hours, plant your things, maintain it, and then that's it.
But even if you did work, right, 8 hours a day, you don't have to be at work at the exact time. Like if you woke up at 9:30 instead of 9, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
It's that pressure to be at work and sit in traffic.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Exactly. And they give you like reviews and like the sinister thing about it is they're paying you with your own money. Like if you're getting paid with food, that's like something that's grown and you labored for it. But they're judging you based on your performance when they pay you with your own money. And so that doesn't make any sense.
How's that your own?
I want to bring up something too. You just reminded me of something that So I was at Randall's the other day and I was checking out. And dude, I started laughing. Like people gave me a look. They probably thought something was wrong with me. Where you swipe your card at, the first thing that popped up was a charity. And it was like, would you like to donate to help end the war in Ukraine? And it's like first of all, they're bold to even like have this prompt up because they're under the assumption that we have extra money to fork over to these people to help out in Ukraine. And then it's like, why would I donate money to a cause Meanwhile, our own government just sent like billions of dollars over there of like plates, guns, vehicles for them to continue the war going.
Right.
So
Do we know why they're
man.
fighting? Like, why
Yeah,
did this
yeah,
happen all of a sudden? Give me a break. So
yeah, dude. I saw right through that. I was like, oh my gosh, dude, people falling for this. This is ridiculous.
I guarantee you that's going right to the IRS to make up their deficits. Like, that's not going anywhere to help.
Oh yeah, hell no.
Yeah.
It's like in the early 2000s, they don't do it anymore, but
Yeah.
you remember those ads that would run and it would show like a kid in Africa that was like starving, and it would be like, if you donate $5, you know, he might be able to get a bowl of rice or something. I noticed when I was like around like 08, 09, that's when they stopped running those ads, but for a while, I guess they were getting a lot of money. But I even knew back then as a little kid, like I was like, there's no way that money or that food's actually going to that kid. He's probably still starving.
Yeah, agreed.
Even in legitimate organizations that take charity money, the majority of it is to pay for the infrastructure.
Yeah, agreed.
They get like 10% of it, you know, and the other 90% goes to pay, you know, people that work for you and to get transport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, it's a very small amount that the people actually get.
Yeah, because all they have to do is set up some kind of infrastructure. It's like a Ponzi scheme, basically. They got to show like just some, you know, building or a few kids getting helped or whatever. And then, okay, then, you know, that's a marketing scheme. And so it's like World Vision and all those other ones in the past. Like, you know, now we look back and we realize like all those things were probably a scam.
You could have a charity organization and make yourself, whatever, the CEO of it and pay yourself $200,000 a year if you want.
Right.
There's no
the only legitimate
this place was just ultra mega evil, man.
Correct. And Galapagos, I subscribe to this really cool YouTube channel with like, he does scams. Like he goes and tries to scam the scammers in India. And so it's a funny channel, dude.
Oh, I watched that guy.
What's the YouTube channel called, dude? It's
Kid
really
Boa or something like that.
Best YouTube channel is Call for an Uprising.
Can you hear me?
That's my favorite
Pops,
channel.
Are you kidding or are you serious, man?
Can you hear me?
I love that guy. He's funny.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I watch him for entertainment.
Is it silent or is it loud?
No, we can hear.
No, you sound clear.
Okay.
The YouTube channel that I subscribe to is called Scammer Payback. He's got 2 million.
Yeah, I watched that guy too.
Dude, he's dope. So he'll go and try and like get people to like, he'll play along with the scam. He'll have a fake bank account. And then he'll all of a sudden like turn their camera on so they can see that like he's watching them. And like he'll tell them their name and where they are. And it's mad funny. But the point of what I was trying to make is like there's literally a business in India and everywhere of people who literally try and scam people. Like that's all they do. So like what kind of world do we live in that people literally sit there and their whole job is to like scam people, elderly people mostly, and say, oh no, your Amazon refund. And then they'll get them to go get a card or give them fork over money or a wire transfer and stuff. Like
they prey on old people too.
Yeah, that's what like gypsies do in Europe. They're a huge problem.
No, but they prey on like you call somebody 75 years old that's senile and tell them you're from the IRS, they believe you. They're like, oh my God. You didn't pay
Pops, you brought up a good point. I noticed in like 2020 that issue like exploded, like the robocallers, all that, like it really picked up in 2020. I don't know how to explain it, but like I never ever had this issue really before, but like every now and then, maybe I had a robocall, 1 or 2 there, but in 2020, dude, it was like every day, man, like a robocall. It was like, and then I heard on the news, like, you know, like you said, all these old people are getting scammed.
Yeah. The best is I had a guy call me and he had he's from India. And he's telling me he's a detective, and there's something on my car that it was stolen last year, and there were tickets on it, and they had a warrant out for me. And all
An Indian detective, that's already shady.
And you had to hear it. The other guy in the background was Indian too, so like it was like, oh really? Where you from?
Dang, T-Mog, your people are doing that.
Yeah, dude, my people are disgusting, vile monsters. And I'll say that right to their face because they also believe that God is like an 8-armed elephant, which is stupid. I used to have pictures of all these gods growing up in my basement.
They have pictures of hundreds of gods. They have so many different temples.
Yeah, it's stupid, man. And so
how did you not know about Jesus growing up when he's in your religion?
No, I did. I mean, I just found out through friends, but I didn't hear about him until they told me about that.
What did they say he did in India, Jesus? Because he did go there.
I've never heard that. Like I've heard of that, but I don't know what he did there.
Well, That's what I'm saying. What?
How would he
Yeah,
get
well,
there?
Why
that's
is
one
it
of
such a
the
mystery that
that's one
we
of the
don't know?
secret things that people think Jesus went to India.
Hmm.
Technically, I believe it because it's James or John 20 something that quotes where the miracles and stuff Christ did is so much to keep track in this book
Yeah.
that just the small stuff is just to
But
show people that he's you know.
isn't it a red flag though that he disappeared from the age of like what 13 till 30? You don't know what he did.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Like,
why I
why
follow
Well,
is?
like.
he didn't have anybody to document what he was
Well,
doing.
come
Like
on.
Well,
for his
there
family.
are books that do try to
No,
say
but wait, think
quote
about it.
undocument it.
Think about how unusual that would be for Mary. She's still trying to figure out what's going on. Her dad, quote unquote dad, is trying to figure out what just happened. So like they don't know everything. Like they're still like everyday people who are like,
Yeah, but if he
what's
was
going
going
on?
around preaching from the age of 13 to 30, I would
Yeah.
imagine, let's say he's 20, 20 years old. I don't think people maybe took him serious when he was a kid, but when he
Agreed.
became like a man
Yeah.
and he's 18 and he's in another country preaching, there
Yeah.
should be documentation.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that he was still like growing. Like he was still learning, and like understanding.
But he was preaching.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, for him to actually begin his ministry and to fast and to prepare for it, like it was a very specific time period, and I have a feeling it probably was 1,260 days. I wouldn't be surprised because that's the same length of the two witnesses in the last.
I find it suspicious.
Do you watch Enter the Stars? He actually says that he thinks Christ died at 73 years old.
No, I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I never heard of that.
I don't know how you can get that.
I could, you know what though? If somebody told me at 13, the Almighty took him up there for a while and then sent him back down to 30, I would believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nobody that has any documentation about him really.
Nowhere ever, like in the record books.
Have you read the Nag Hammadi though? That says that he went to India, then they have some documentation of him as a kid and he did certain things.
How did he get there? Or what do they tell you?
He traveled.
Like by walking?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Oh, okay, got it.
There's really not a lot of evidence to prove he did anything from 13 to 30. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think that's the amazing thing about it. It's like we are supposed to take it by faith. Like, because we don't have all the proof, and it's like if it were clear, then more people would believe in him. But it's amazing, that we literally do have to take it by faith. I view him as another historical figure that we could have got duped. We say that regularly. I mean, I don't know. I can't prove it. So
I think the Almighty would have made it clear. That's my problem with it.
No, that's not the way he is. Because again, the Pops, you understand that the time that we live in is a deceptive time, and God's behind it. The Almighty is doing the deception, and so he's trying to deceive.
He's testing us.
He's trying to deceive his very elect, and so that's yeah, exactly. He's trying to sharpen people, and so he's not going to make it clear.
Do you believe in Lucifer works for him? I do.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, for sure.
Me too.
Yeah. And so
how do you come to that conclusion that the devil works for the Most High? Because directly or not directly?
Yeah, directly.
I believe directly and indirectly. I believe he gave him free will to go corrupt people and test the people he wants him to test. But I think he has to ask for permission when it comes to certain people, like what he can do, how far he can go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's allowed to do physical harm to people. But then again, he did, right, with Job. So
yeah, he is allowed to. I mean, he's doing it right now.
I think he has to ask for permission, though, how far he can go.
That's true. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why we even get into the discussion even of like the Nephilim and the fallen and all that kind of stuff. All those spirits are doing that, and God's behind it.
Think about it.
That's the thing. He has to be behind it.
Think about it. If you're the Almighty, right?
Yeah.
And you want to test your elect.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You got to send somebody to go test them.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do the dirty work. The Almighty wasn't going to do it. He is like, I'll send you down.
Yeah.
And you go do. It's like he's like an infiltrator for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the part that it's hard for us to wrap our mind around how even with us personally, like how do we have some sense of free will, but we're not actually free? Like our whole life has been determined already. We don't know
Well,
that.
it's not free will. It's soft
Exactly.
determinism.
Exactly. It's
Because you can't have free will if there's prophecy that needs to be fulfilled. So it's light determinism.
I
correct.
think
You're right. Yeah.
personally, I think
Exactly.
that everything is
You
determined.
know what's funny is I got that from an atheist. There's an atheist I watch, and like everything that he preaches is like absolutely true. He says, Christians, how can you say that your God is all love and can't do evil when he starts reading all the verses and everything, and then he starts getting angry. Like
Mhm.
he doesn't believe in the Bible like that, so to say, but his critiques are
Mhm.
like I don't disagree with him, which is funny though. You should check him out. His channel is called Occult Think Tank. His name's Greg. He's this
Nice.
older white guy.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's funny because like what he says, I agree with totally.
Yeah.
I
Well, if
think
he
that
said
we
that about determinism
And then
prophecy,
he even like interviewed a what is it, a rabbi, like someone very skilled in like Judaism today, and
Mhm.
like he started saying that like there is no hell and everything. Is like, wow, this guy's crazy, because
Hmm.
like I hear this from like small groups of like Christian individuals, but they're always off about something. But he
Yeah.
confronts it all with like a certain manner, and it's like he's right.
who's this
I would agree. His name's Occult Think Tank. His
a
name's
cult
Greg.
think tank?
But you have to think any prophecy that involves a large group of people means that you do have to control everybody to make sure that it happens. So that just makes sense, you
See,
know.
I
And so
believe that everything is predetermined,
yeah.
but there's always a chance. It's like there's always two roads. You could go either way. And I think once in a while, somebody shocks the Almighty and goes to the path he didn't think they were going to do. Even though it was predetermined, somebody once in a while throws a curveball. And I think that's the free will part where it kicks in. I think sometimes he really wants to give us free will and he gives you two choices.
Hmm.
Because that's better for him to actually sit back and go, okay, I'm going to give him two roads he could go. And I want to see which road he chooses. It would be boring if he knew exactly.
Here's an analogy that I use. Again, take this as like a bit extra biblical. So if God's fashioning the body and soul, the way I view the soul is like a time release information. So your soul, as your brain develops and pathways start opening, your soul then can now access different parts of your brain as it grows and develops and forms those links. So your soul is the energy that's like pushing all the chemicals through, and that's how in your soul it determines what you know, and essentially all the decisions that you're going to make in your soul itself. And that soul is God. And so he's giving you your decision path through your soul. And so you are a function of God. And then through that soul, God is able to record everything because it's a part of him. So it's like almost like he has a little probe in your body kind of thing. So how we're able to experience that without feeling like God made all those deterministic things, that I don't think we'll ever know. We may not ever know that.
I got three questions for you, Timo.
Yeah.
I want to know your answer to them. So, if the devil works directly, not indirectly for the Most High, why would he create a being in the last days that works for him that he's going to destroy? Like,
No one knows
what
that.
what's the logic behind that? And also, here's another thing. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do follow the Book of Enoch
Yeah,
as biblical scripture,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I haven't read
Okay.
it many times, but the time that I went through it, I like what I saw.
I
Okay,
don't
so
think he's going to destroy him, though.
you're familiar with the Watcher story, right? With the multiple angels.
No, but we can read it if you want. I got it right here.
Well, when they're on the mountain.
Yeah, and then it
But
starts
give me a summarize it for me if you can.
listing their chiefs, and
Right.
then they meet them on the mountain. And they starts going over the names and what these angels taught men, certain skills, the art of war, and like
He had the
what is
20
it?
squad.
The
He
only
had
thing
20 of
people
them,
the
right?
thing
20
that people
squad
get
leaders.
confused whenever God uses angels, he's talking about people. So the elect are angels. So everybody on earth
you can view them even as an angel, whether like a death angel on God's left-hand side or an elect
I
angel.
thought they were heavenly beings.
So what do you think the Watchers are? Would you say they're the Israelites in the Book of Enoch, or would you say those are the actual the angels that
Depends what they're doing. I mean, everybody is at the mercy of God. I think when people read those, they think, oh no, those are the evil people. No, it's like the people that are on earth doing evil, it would be one of them represented with that. And so there's not other evil spirits out there. They're all here on the earth doing things, teaching people war.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's what it lists. So how would I say this? So you would say that when it talks about the Watchers in Enoch, that these aren't evil beings, or what necessarily would be your take on that?
Well, here's the difficult, like God's left-hand side are doing what he says. So are they doing evil? Yes, but they're doing what he says. So there's an element of righteousness to them. Like the Hebrew Israelites on the street, they're bringing out truth, and the Christian church, some of them, and the flat earthers, I call them evil and actors, but they're doing what God programmed to do. So
Here, hold on. Let me look it up
real
real quick. Let me actually look it up real quick. What I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But do you see my point? Like there are people clearly doing deception, but God's behind it, so there's a righteous purpose for it.
So this is the description of what the Watchers are. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers, Aramaic, are never mind. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are angels dispatched to the earth to watch over the humans. They soon begin to lust for human women, and at the prodding of their leader Sam Yaza, defect and Maze, to illicitly instruct humanity and procreate among them. And then it also goes into start listing the names of them and what they taught man, like the art of war, mascara, like beauty, cosmetics, and all that, astrology, all of that.
Right.
So it says the Book of Enoch, the sin of the Watchers. According to the Book of Enoch, according to the Book of Enoch, the Watchers, quoting the sons of God of Genesis, are clearly celestial, non-human beings whose actions are regarded as, what is it? Shit, it cut off.
But check this out.
Basically, it's saying that these Watchers, the angels that were dispatched to watch over humans, sinned against God. And so would you say that these Watchers, these angels, are directly or indirectly under the Most High's control of, him telling them to go do it and they do it? Are them going against him and he's indirectly using them as like pawns in like a chess game?
Right. Here's what I think. And again, this is a little bit outside the Bible, but I suspect is probably in line with that kind of thing. Like when you're out of the body, you clearly have more freedom to like move around and do things and more power, clearly. So you don't have less when you're out of the body. So possibly one way to think about it is that these souls have existed. All these gods have existed. And then there's the Most High God. And then he gives them.
Oh, yeah. No, I
freedom.
agree with that. I believe there's other gods,
right? But
regardless who they are.
The whole story. Let me explain the whole narrative.
Okay, go ahead.
You have a realm with the Most High, right? And you have souls, and then they're able to go and freely go about his realm, which is in the spirit realm. And it could be vast, and they could go and explore and do things and learn and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe he gives them freedom to do good and evil. Okay. And then what he's doing now, once they've gone and used some of their actual free will out there, and then this could be the realm of the judgment for all those different things. And so now he created an earth. So then now, based on all their decisions, then he has to judge what they did. And then we have to experience pain here in a body. And so
I've heard
this is the judgment. So what is the judgment for? It's not for actions that we did in our past life with Adam. It's actions that we did in the spirit realm. Okay, as gods. They said, Christ says, you are gods. And so
Psalms 82:6.
Yeah, so all the souls that are experiencing judgment here on earth is a judgment for what we've done out of the body, not Adam sinning. And that's the story, that's a narrative that God crafted to create bodies for the judgment of the fallen angels and all of them on his left and right hand side. And then he's going to preserve some and he's going to destroy some. So that again, that's not necessarily, that might be what Enoch is saying. I don't remember reading the whole book,
Well,
but
basically, it's that the story is that God was, how do you say, in a short way to say it, is that he was watching over the earth and it got real sinful, so he decided to, I guess, or he dispatched a group of angels to watch over humans, and they soon went astray and did their own thing, if that be free will or not. And supposedly they sinned against God, teaching man these different things that would be considered sinful in nature.
yeah,
And Enoch went to them and they asked for like forgiveness, but they weren't granted anything. And I forgot what happened after the story. It's been like a couple months since I read it, but
yeah,
that's the how you say, the plot of it is
yeah,
that there was these sinful angels, and they did go against the Most High. And one of the angels, actually, I forgot the name. Well, no, I actually know it. So there's an angel called Gadriel that's listed in the Book of Enoch, and
mhm,
supposedly not supposedly, it says that this angel is the one that tempted Eve in the garden. So I've always assumed that this angel from the Book of Enoch,
mhm,
which is one of the Watchers, is actually the Satan that's been all throughout the Bible,
right.
as I took it, because I
But
considered it.
yo, dude, here's the point that maybe you've already thought about, but the judgment we're experiencing here is possibly, quite possibly, decisions that we've made in the spirit realm purely, and
Oh
this is
no,
a projection
I
of
I
that
wouldn't disagree
realm
with that at all.
into the body. And so somehow, when the Most High creates, and he creates a soul, he has to create a soul that's like him, which has sovereignty and the ability to make decisions and to create and to move freely. And so are
Yeah,
there
because
maybe in that realm, again, it's hard for us to even wrap our mind around this realm fully, much less that realm, but maybe there are groups of souls that did combine to do things that did not please God, and then this earthly realm is a judgment. And notice how souls here travel in groups. Like you have the flat earth group, you have the ball earthers, you have the Democrats and the Republicans and all that. Notice how they all just travel in the same, understanding. And so
yeah,
all those, and
it's
Christ even says that
actually,
that souls travel in like legions, when he was putting the souls into the pigs. And so I suspect this world is a projection of the spirit realm with all the different souls that God creates, and he can create as many as he wants, and he doesn't like forget about them. But then they all have to be recombined and receive their judgment. And then what I suspect happens is that they get promoted to a higher level of understanding. And so they become closer and closer to the way the Most High is. So he gives them, but he has to, yeah, they have to pay for what they did. They have to receive judgment, punishment, and then hopefully they'll learn from it. That's why we say this is a learning process and to become more discerned. And then so what we do when we are here, we become more discerned, not to follow the crowds, don't follow the masses. And so then God will use us like, hey, remember that time you were about to go and follow the masses? This is what happens if you do that. And this is what happens if you don't do that. And then he'll reward people. But this is ultimately decisions that we all made in the spirit realm. And now we're seeing the decision here.
So we're all part of the same legion, all four of us.
If we're a group that doesn't go along with the crowd, we may receive no judgment or less judgment. Yeah.
No, but like
agreed.
what I'm trying to say is, you're part, me and you, and that the other two guys here, we're all like kind of in the same legion. We're hanging out.
Yeah, exactly. No, agreed.
It's
because
not a
in a
coincidence.
way,
We're in
yeah,
the
in a
same
way,
room
way,
together.
because
but
we're
Mike
sharing
wouldn't
notes.
fit in on this.
What's that?
I said Mike wouldn't fit into the Legion.
No, he's rejected because he rejects the New
But
Testament.
but my thing is though is that I don't disagree with this. It's just I'm just trying to figure out the assumption to how you guys come to a conclusion like this, is that these, if you want to call them rebellious entities, work directly for the Most High, when there are parts of the scripture that shows that they're asking for like repentance, and that are that they're doing things that they're trying to go against the Most High with. So like, how is he giving them orders when it seems like, because there are parts of the scripture where the Most High is directly using these entities to judge or send out certain things that he wants done in his will,
Yeah.
for it to be happened, is that he's using these other, what you would call evil entities
But dude,
to
that's
do
the
to
levels,
do
man.
his work.
But
But
that's the
see,
level. That's the
but
whole
s-
point.
yeah, I totally get that. But see, as I've always seen it, is that since these evil entities, like in Enoch, are asking Enoch for repentance to give the Most High their how you say their counsel or something like that, or like how Satan is very blasphemous, in character wise in the New Testament towards the Son of God and towards the Most High himself. So like, why would he be saying this about the Most High and doing these evil acts
Mhm.
if he directly works for him? As I've always seen it, is that these evil entities don't necessarily have the position of an archetype in his right hand side, but more or less are on his left hand side, but not directly working for him, but indirectly by him allowing them to do these things to complete his will, if you understand, because
Right.
that's
But
how I've always seen it.
just think about this logically. You have a source that's an energy source, right? Which is the Most High, and he stands by himself. He would not create, we would not exist unless at some moment after he already existed, all these things have come about. So then he's able to take pieces of him and put them in different things, in bodies, in wherever he sends souls. And so start with that. So everything is fundamentally a piece of him. And so all this stuff the Bible says is a movie. It's for his pleasure, ultimately, whatever he energizes to go and happen. And so now all those cool pieces have to represent some amount of him. They have to have sovereignty. They have to have some decision-making capability. They have to have some amount of freedom to move around and do things and to explore and to create and all that kind of stuff. And so how that works, we don't fully understand, but all of it is still in subjection to him because it's a part of him. So it's
Yeah,
not
no,
like,
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like he's sending out these entities, giving them orders, but more or less indirectly using them to complete his will.
Yeah,
agreed.
Because
Yes, agreed. Agreed. Yes.
they do have to, because if you follow Job, the angel Satan, or whatever you want to call him, Lucifer, he had to ask for permission to do these things. So they are going to the Most High to ask for these permissions to
But
do these evil acts.
that's not like literally happening, right? Like that's a way for us who are living in the movie to get an explanation for God's judgment. No one's going to God and be like, "Hey, what's up?" That's all like that's just a way
Yeah,
for
no,
us.
I totally get that, but
Right. Okay. Good. Because
yeah, no,
that's not
I
what's
totally
happening.
get that. But the thing is, though, is that how would I put this? Is that the thought process that these beings would have don't necessarily align up to them doing in a direct order from the Most High, but more or less an indirect action that he can benefit off of, that he allows. Like they're not necessarily going up to him say, "Hey, can I go deceive this person?" But
Mhm.
more or less that they deceive the person, the Most High sees it, and he allows it to happen because
No,
it
he's
completes
doing
his
it.
will.
No, he's doing it. He's actually doing it. Like it's not getting permission. My point is that all that stuff is symbolic
No, I'm
for
not saying
decisions.
he's not doing it.
Okay.
It's just that he is allowing these entities to do it.
No, we get that, but the distinction is that
But I
all
don't
those
think more or less he's sending them out like that. Like there's an angel next to him, and he says, "Hey, go do this evil act," and
no, he
and
is
they do that.
100%. Yeah, he is. That's exactly what's happening.
So Satan. So you would say that Satan is how you say in the court of the Most High, and in the last days he's going to be destroyed. In the last days.
This is the deep part, man. It's like it's God's energy itself. And so you can call that Satan. That's what the Bible will list all the souls on God's left-hand side. That
Yeah,
energy
there's
inside of
more
them.
than one Satan, but there's
Correct.
the
But all
character Satan.
but yeah, that's a name for us when we read the Bible to okay, Christ is the fullness of the Most High. And so that's a word that represents God's energy, because his body is going to go to the earth like everybody else's, but the energy that's inside of it, you can call that name Christ. Okay. But that's from the Most High. And then the unique thing about that is that it's, if you were to look at the proximity of the energies, it's the one that's closest to the Most High. Okay. And then all the other ones would be a different level lower. Okay. Like John the Baptist and Elijah would be closest to Christ, and then they would have more power over their body and then over the earth and other people. And so all of the hierarchy is proximity to the Most High. And so then they'll give it a name. Okay, that's Christ, and then this, and then all those other spirits that are only allowed to do evil left-hand side work, God will call them, let's say, Satan or Biden or whatever you want to call
But
it. So
he's going to destroy his left-hand side. But
it's
see,
not destroy. No, it's not destroy. He's taking that energy back to himself. That energy cannot be destroyed. He's collapsing that energy back to himself, meaning is that he's not going to, in the kingdom, send out his left-hand side anymore. Okay, go kill that person, or go do this to this, go deceive that person. He's not going to do that anymore. So he's going to that's why the Bible says the kingdom of God is at hand, which is symbolic for his right hand. And so his right-hand side is only going to populate the kingdom. So he's not going to send forth the deceivers anymore. He's not going to send forth the rapists and the murderers and the mark of the beasters and the ball earthers. It's God's energy. And so that's why what is happening, even the evil is righteous, because God's doing it. And so we have to believe that it's for a righteous purpose, because the Bible says in Revelation 4:11 and everywhere, God creates all things. Okay. This whole movie is for his pleasure. And so that's the amazing thing about it. And so that energy that's inside Biden or anybody is from God. You can call it whatever angel you want, but that's the amazing thing.
No, I'm trying to come to, like, I can't word it right. I'm trying to, like, think it off the top of my head.
It's not being destroyed. That's what, when the Bible says, that's symbolic. When it says that all these things are going to be destroyed by fire and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's not like the fire can destroy the soul. Okay. It just means when Christ says body and soul,
it's a physical thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But the soul is not being burned. It's not being affected by that.
Yeah, that's the Christian concept. I don't follow that.
Right. No, I know you don't. But when it says body and soul is going to be destroyed, it means that he's going to take that energy back to himself, and he's not going to release it again in the kingdom. He's only going to release the energies of his right hand side, which is the elect, and then the Christ, and then the mixed multitude.
Okay, so I don't mean to cut you off, but as I'm taking it, and so I don't know how to necessarily say it in a way that you say it, so I'll try to dumb it down for myself. So what you're saying is that these angels, or whatever you want to call them, not the human that you refer to as fallen angels, the actual entities that are these angels that are, basically that's what you could say. These entities are a sort of hive mind that are all connected in one mind that tie back to the Most High, so he can controls all of them 100%. To do his will.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that how you would put it?
Yeah, I would say that they're all one. Like God's right hand side are all one. God's left hand side are all one. And then so when they do a lockdown or they do an evil narrative, they'll jump on board. Hey, okay, cool. That's the next thing to do. Got it. We're gonna do it, even if it's painful for them. They'll do it.
That sounds like a beehive. You know how a beehive works.
You're right. 100%.
Do you think it's possible that?
Yep. Go ahead.
I've never seen it like that.
Some of these entities on his left side, do you think it's possible that some of them probably don't directly know that the Most High is the one controlling them?
No, they know. And the reason they do know that is because when you go and tell them something, they know not to talk about it. And so this is what we've learned. And Pete Shea said this once, who's a flat earther, is like, about what a person knows by what they can't talk about, not what they can talk about. So when you go to somebody and try and give them just basic understanding about the economy or how evil this narrative is or whatever, the flat earth or whatever, and they're like, no, I won't talk about it. Well, that's not a logical thing. And so they know that the Most High exists. They know that what their job is. And so that's why they're not exempt from punishment, because they know exactly what they're not talking about. Because if they did talk about those things, we could improve this place, and then we wouldn't have the end times narrative. So that's where God has to be in control of those people. And so that's why God is at. When I argue with somebody and then they start getting angry about things that are obvious, I know that God's controlling their mind. And the Bible actually says that God is a mind controller. So he's controlling everybody's mind. And then the Bible says the deceived and the deceiver are his. And so all these people that we view are just actors or terrible actors or stupid people, God's controlling all their mind. And the only people that he's released are the people that know the truth. So the only people that truly have some sort of free will are the gods now, or the elect. And so all those other people are already, in a sense, gods, because God is controlling them.
So
they know a lot about what they're allowed to say and not allowed to say. So that's my vantage point. And so I even heard Good Serpent say this one time. He's like, oh, were we the last to figure it out? And he said, sometimes Good Serpent says things that are deep and correct, because he's like, oh shoot, like, were we the last to figure out? Because like it seems like everybody else knows that this is a clown show, but they're going along with it. But like, how come we figured it out? You know what I mean? Like, but it's true though, because like
I agree with that.
Yeah, like what Sacramento's saying, they're all a hive mind. Like they knew that next thing that comes.
That's just how I'm interpreting it. Like that's
you're
how
right.
it sounds.
They all are aligned. Like they could bring the dumbest idea next, like, hey, wear 8 masks because it'll help your ears to not get the thing. They'd be like, all right, cool, let's go with that. So they don't care. Like they're just gonna go with it. So we're the opposite. We're like, whatever they do, like, don't do it. So that's exactly describes God's left-hand side. And that's why the Bible says it's a beast system. It's a network of people worldwide that never met each other. But if they say whatever goes on CNN or whatever, they'll go with it. So
I have a question to all that though. I don't mean to cut anybody off. I'm just this is a new idea. I've actually never heard of this before, because I've always subscribed to that he allows evil entities to roam around but indirectly controls the actions that they do. I've never interpreted it as the Most High having a collective mind over these entities and they're all aware of what they're doing. I'd never actually seen it like that, so this is a new idea. But how would you conclude to parts of the scripture that says that, like how Satan tempted and tried to deceive the Messiah, and also parts of the Book of Enoch where it lists that these are clearly rebellious entities?
Those are just staged. Those are like staged events. Christ's death was a staged event. Everything in the Bible ultimately was staged. And so we would have to believe it's for this final generation, because now we're awake to the fact that we're living in a movie. And so Christ was aware that he was a character in a movie. And that temptation scene wasn't really tempting. Like he was reading his script. And so he was an actor and a character, just like we all are. The only question is, I ask people, is like, what side are you on? Are you on God's left-hand side or right-hand side? And so that's all of that. Even that stuff with like his disciple betraying him. It's like, how does a disciple betray you? It's like, they know where he is. Okay. You don't need your disciple to go and point out, oh, there's the Christ. Like everybody knows where he is. So
I guess the reason why for a lot of people, it's hard for them to understand that is because they can get on board with, like humans are clearly being controlled by God. They're clearly ideas are being put in their head by him. But I guess it's hard for them to understand that spiritual entities in the spirit realm are being controlled directly by God, because they're on a different level of existence, I guess. And people on the earthly scale, we think, oh, well, they have a lot of power. They have more power than we do. So there must be a way where they have some kind of free will or something.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for us to believe that too, because we also don't feel it. Like we don't feel like God is like manipulating our brain and forcing us to do certain things. So it's clever, like how God can like control people but not make it feel like pressure, like a robot or somebody's hand in your back. That I don't think he'll ever tell people that, because like why would he want people
wouldn't
to
that
know
be
how he's doing it?
Indirectly in control and not directly, because we
it's
don't know about it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you could word it that way. It's like it's directly, but we don't feel it. Like we don't sense it, but it's happening. Like it's very clearly happening. Like your next thought is governed by what God has programmed you to think.
So in the truth community, the key well, how would you put this? The core aspect is that it's mostly if you watch the truth videos, it's mostly against people who are like Masons and the Illuminati and stuff like that. So um the key belief is that these groups are in alignment with how we say rebellious entities that are against the Most High.
Yeah.
So
They're not rebelling against him. They're doing exactly what he's telling them to do.
so these so these truth people, the truth community, they blame the entities,
Yep.
and so we should actually be blaming the men that are being deceived by them.
No, you
Or
don't blame anybody. It's like it's all.
It's a movie playing out. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, our requirement is just not to go along with them. Like you were saying, like I believe maybe we were in some kind of round robin spiritual simulation. I'll believe that. And then certain people followed the evil or the souls that were not going towards the Most High. And then they experienced some judgment, but they're experiencing it here. And then we were the type that like maybe we went along with some of it, but not fully. And then we're living it out right now. And so all of this ultimately is a test to go back to the Creator. That's always going to be the correct thing to do, you know. And so how God lets people roam about outside him freely, no one can know that. Like, how would we know that?
Man, dude, like if you were like back then, the Christian church would have you labeled as a mystic. You know that, right?
Yeah, all right. That's the nice thing about it though, Sacramento. Now that we know that God exists and we read these books and we can read them and then take a lot of them literally, and we're like, wow, like, you know, this whole thing is a movie. And so labeling it a simulation is not wrong as long as you give credit to the creator of the Bible, the God of the Bible, that yeah, that is true. You know, we are in a movie, and it's not, the reason that it's not a simulation is that the people's feelings are real and pain is real. And so we can't like pretend like this is not like a real thing that has real consequences and all that. So that's where I don't like using that language, because it just sounds like everybody's robotic and nobody feels anything and all that. If we didn't feel pain, then I would say, yeah, we are in a simulation and, you know, who cares? But we do. And so it's real, and the decisions are real, and then the judgments are real, and then the rewards hopefully are very real.
That's where like a lot of the flat earthers go off at, is because they'll figure out like one of the biggest truths about our world is what we're standing on.
Yeah.
And then they'll go and they'll be like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion's all corrupted. I don't believe in any of that.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. We have to be in like a simulation to explain all these crazy things that are going on in our world. And then they just jump down a bunch of rabbit holes and they just go crazy. Some of them completely do a 180 and go back to believing in the globe earth. Other ones go into believing the hollow earth, and some are on like the concave earth, like Sam Owen. They basically just drive themselves crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't mean to cut anybody off, but I'm actually working on I don't know when I'll get around to doing it, but I've been taking notes on it. Is that I've been looking into like kind of like psychology kind of stuff, if you want to put it like that,
Mm-hmm.
and how somebody can actually put themselves in a mental psychosis. And I think that's what I think that's what has happened with Sam, because I watched him for about over a year.
Yeah.
And I came into the middle because I've noticed is that it was a 3-stage part psychosis that he's put himself in.
Yeah.
And so I think I came into the middle of it, and I was watching his older videos recently, and he never really alluded to the fact that he's the Son of Man, and so, or Christ himself. So at the beginning of it, he was throwing that he might actually be the Son of Man.
Yeah.
And to the later part of it, and when I came in, is that he stopped saying it and was wondering it. So like he was in the beginning stage of thinking it, and now just recently he posted a video saying I am Christ. So he's at the third stage of it where he's actually Christ himself, he says.
Yeah.
So it's weird that I've wanted to look into it more, of how somebody can actually put themselves in a mental psychosis and believe, you know, their stuff that they believe themselves to be. So like, you know, you got people out here saying that they're Jesus, or they're one of the elect, or they're one of the two witnesses.
I don't mean to cut you off, Jay, but it's like I don't know for sure, man. I still watch FEB's videos, but I'm trying to like understand, man, if he actually thinks he's Moses or if he's just like trolling.
It's a
pretty sure
mental
it's so, yeah.
psychosis, man. Like they put
Because I
they
watch
put
his like older
themselves.
videos, and it's like he's like, all right, well, where are the elect? But I thought
Yeah, that's like with Sam.
he was under the assumption, like I thought he was under the belief, like T-Mog, that
Mhm.
the elect come down after,
Yeah.
or I mean, the two witnesses come down after the elect are taken away.
Yeah.
But then he like started saying, oh well, no, that can't be. And then
Mhm.
now he's like, well, where are they? They have to be here. And then he's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm Moses. And it's like, dude, there's no way this guy actually believes
what?
this.
You know
But
what
you know what, Jay?
aspect that
You might be onto something. Maybe he is like
Well, yeah,
going through something.
that's the video I'm kind of working on. I call it the Sam Owen effect.
But here, Sacramento, just to kind of build on those two things, it's kind of like, imagine if you're like, you're supposed to strive to be the elect, okay? And let's just say that you've debunked you find a lot of people stupid, like Flat Earth Boxer definitely does, and that's what him and I get along with, because like we find a lot of people stupid. And then he's like, okay, well that's kind of boring. I'm the elect now. And then he's like, well, what's the next thing that I can be? And it's like, well, okay, I can be the two witnesses. And so that's the way I view it. I view him as a very intelligent person who's like just kind of bored. And this is why, the aspect that I like talking to him, it's like he's just kind of not intellectually stimulated. And so the next thing which he'll probably do is maybe he'll be like, well, I can be the son of man now or whatever. So like maybe that's the same with Sam. Maybe Sam is really intelligent and he looks around the world and views everybody like as stupid and disgusting. And then he's like, well, okay, I got to go spread the good seed now because look at all these disgusting vermin. And so if that is true and that's an actual thing you can talk yourself into, like I might have been guilty of that on some level.
Yeah,
So,
I think I've actually might have been guilty of that too. Regardless, a couple other things, not truth or spiritual wise,
right.
but yeah, I legitimately think that might be what has happened.
Yeah.
And
No,
I don't know
wouldn't
how
do that. I
many
wouldn't be
videos
surprised.
would be done, but I've actually want to explore that more.
I would just say FEB, man, relax, bro. Try and be the elect, man. Just fill those shoes, though. Those are still pretty big shoes, and it's not like you don't have to wait too much longer. You don't have to go full whatever that phrase that Sacramento just said. Don't go full psychosis, man.
Yeah, mental
Yeah.
psychosis.
Yeah,
It's
we
just
don't
kind
want
of
that.
awkward, man, because like he'll be in his videos, he'll be at a bar or something, and he'll say, like, oh yeah, he'll talk to the bartender and he'll tell her, oh yeah, I'm Moses, by the way. But she'll just be like, okay. She doesn't know what the heck he's talking about.
That's wild, dude.
And I'm
And
like,
so-
I'm just like, man, Moses is just here chilling in a bar, but Elijah's not there. It's like, where's the other witness at?
Dude, if you ever see him, we should ask young Moses, bro. You better you better make this water blood, man, and then I'll believe you. So
He has balls to say that. I'd be scared to embarrass myself by doing
hell
something like that. But
you don't want to say that.
Yeah.
Of all the groups to be in the Bible, the elect is one thing because they're described as men, that are potentially to be deceived. So you could make a case to be one, but to say you're the two witnesses is basically almost like saying like you're Christ because you have to have power. So that does take another level. If T-Mog ever says that, unsub, okay, just whatever. If I ever just get bored and start saying I'm the two witnesses, be like, okay, T-Mog's totally lost his mind. Just forget about what he's saying. So that's crazy. And so that's the wild thing about it is that I'd be actually interested to know like why he didn't just find it enough to strive to be the elect, which is a lot. So, and you get rewards. So,
dude, if somebody says they're like one of the witnesses, I'm gonna expect them to be like basically a computer, with the Bible, and then like,
right.
First of all, like their energy is just gonna be like not of this world. Like I'm gonna notice right off the back that they're not
100%.
like human.
Yeah.
And then
I would
on
literally
top of
like
that,
point your
I'm gonna
star
expect
on my
them to
arm.
like be like like have powers like you said, making miracles happen, spitting out fire.
Yep.
And I'm gonna expect people that even attempt to cause physical harm to them to just fall over dead of like a heart attack or something.
Me too. Exactly. And if you're sincere with them, I think you can go up to them and be like, I have this scar, like just, not that I'm trying to test you, but like, can you heal that just to let me know? Not that I need it healed or anything, cosmetic, but like, show me, and then I don't think if you're sincere, they will do that. I don't think they're going to heal on a mass scale or like replace the medical system or anything, but they have to demonstrate it because the Bible says they're going to have plagues and they can do it as often as they will. So they're going to have continuous power. So yeah, I mean, you got to
Ooh,
be able to prove it.
that reminds me. I don't mean to change the topic though, but going back to the previous conversation regarding angels and like, do they directly or work indirectly for the Most High?
Yeah.
Going back to that, the atheist that I mentioned that I watch, he actually has an interview with a Jewish rabbi. His name is Mark Powers. He's one of the main dudes that heads a group called Jews for Judaism, which is a direct opposition to Jews for Jesus, or yeah, that's what they're called, Jews for Jesus, because he says that Christian missionaries are going to Jews and telling them that Jesus is actually their Messiah, and they're leaving the religion. So he formed a group called Jews for Judaism, and their main dude is a Tanakh or Torah scholar, and he's a rabbi. His name's Mark Powers. So the atheist that I watch, he interviewed this guy, and so they're talking about the Christian concept of how Satan and all of them are actually evil angels. And what this dude said is that the atheist asked him, "So is Satan evil?" And then Mark Powers actually said, "No, he's a good guy." That just reminded me of that.
Yeah, I think that's what, we don't want to say that because to mislead people, but we're going to realize that everybody was working together for a righteous kingdom. And so that's what we're all going to realize. Like, I call ETT evil because of his doctrine, but I know his role ultimately is a righteous role. I know that. I don't say that because like no one will understand what I'm saying, but like they're pushing some of the truth, and Bible Defenders the same way. And so the people that are out there, even the Hebrews, even Ken Hovind, who we call a deceiver, he has an important role. And RV Truth, he's pushing truths out there. And so, yeah, we call him like a deceiver and an antichrist because of his doctrine, but the energy that's motivating him to push those truths is ultimately righteous, for sure. Because the Bible says the deceived and the deceiver are his. What does that mean? God is energizing them. So when we're seeing those people, that's God. That's a character that God has made to ultimately direct us back to him. And so what does he do with those souls that were, bringing us back to him? That's already him. So that's already a piece of God. And so he doesn't like smack them over the head or destroy them or whatever. Like he collapses them back to him. And then if he needs them to do something else, he'll go put them in, and do it. So, yeah, that's hard. That's kind of deep. Like it's hard for us to wrap our head around that.
It is deep. I'm still trying to
But it's true though.
get situated in that because
but
I've never heard that
we
before.
Can prove that. We can prove that. But even that guy that you interviewed in Sacramento, the GMS guy, nice guy, right? Like he came from like a lot of rougher teaching, and now he's like kind of more mellow. And so ultimately, for somebody to be motivated to teach that many years, and like obviously you'll disagree with him on certain things, but like
he was in Salt Lake City today.
Right, but he's pushing a vibration of truth, even though he's also pushing some lies. But the whole point of the sum of the lies is to remind you to not focus on them, but focus on the creator. That's the whole point. The only people that are the purest, if you teach from the elect, they're not even going to talk to you. They're just going to say, go to the Most High directly. They're not even going to say, watch my video, this and that. They're just going to say, worship God. And so that's why they have to bake in some of those lies, but they're always going to put in some truth. And then, so once you have truth, you have to have God. And so that's why he's energizing them. So, I'm hard on those people, not for their sake, because ETT knows his role. So does Bible Defender, but other people know, okay, don't focus on the Hebrew Israelites. Don't go camp out on their teaching and think that they're the end all be all. No, you got to pierce through them, go to the next thing, then go to the next thing, and then go to the next thing. And so a lot of people are stuck on stupid, and they're sitting around thinking that the Hebrews are the two witnesses and this and that. And you're supposed to go bark at people on the street and call them sluts and whores. And notice how they don't do that anymore, because we've pushed back and we've exposed their like people, everybody, not just me, very little of me, but they don't do that as much anymore. And that's why when he was teaching the guy in, Sacramento, you can just tell he had a different sort of more calm vibration. He's not
he's a nice guy. I run into him every now.
Older videos, he was the first guy who would have confrontation and like smacking women, because I've watched his older videos back in the day. Now he's just more like level. And so I found that interesting. But all I'm saying is that you're seeing a little bit more of the righteous side of God in him now that he's mellowed out. But ultimately, these souls on God's left-hand side, they're serving God for sure. So there's an element of righteousness.
Okay, I get that. The
ETT
angel
knows that
being
he's not the
wise.
two witnesses. ETT knows that he is not the fulfillment of Revelation. He knows that.
Does he really believe that though, or is that a
No, he
joke?
knows that he's not, and he knows exactly what Revelation 11 is all about, and it's literal. And just read it, okay? And so he knows that. And so what does that mean then? Well, he has a certain role to play, and he knows a lot. So
Oh, is that why you call people actors?
yes, correct.
Okay,
The only people that are not actors are the elect, because they're just
gotcha.
like, what the hell's going on? Like, why am I here? And like, get me out of here, and all that kind of stuff. And so all those other people are designed to get the elect back to the Father. And so those other people are working for the Father. They're with the Father. So, yeah.
It
So
makes
if
sense too, because like there'll be some people out there, man, and it's like they'll have the truth, they'll get the truth, and they'll be like, okay, all right, like I get it now. And then like not even an hour later, they'll be like, it's like they forgot everything, and they'll just have
Yeah.
their old belief, you know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
for years, I couldn't understand what caused that. You know, like if people just had short-term memory loss or what it was it their attention span? But you know what you said, T-Mog, makes the most sense, is that ultimately like God's controlling these people, and he's not going to let them go out of bounds of what he wants them to believe.
Yeah, agreed. And so that's the aspect of just people in general in the truth community. Even Mark Sargent, like he's not like a mean guy. Like, I don't think that he's the best representative, but when you
I
talk
like
to him,
Mark Sargent.
yeah, when you talk to them, like he's a nice guy, like he's a pleasant guy. And like when I email him, he almost kind of comes across a bit of like a father figure. He's like, because he watches some of my videos. One time I emailed him and he replied back. He's like, take it easy on them. We're in the last days kind of thing. And so he'll say these cryptic kind of things, to let me know, like, just relax, like all of this is kind of playing out for a particular purpose. And so why would a non-Bible person talk about that kind of stuff, And so I view these people as enemies for a bit of like show on YouTube, just to make sure that people know this is the best doctrine that I'm presenting, at least what I can present. But this whole movie, we have to take some comfort that God is in control of both sides. He's got everything under control, even though it seems like everybody's getting bombed and this and that and all this crap's popping off and all that. So we take comfort in that. That's why we teach that regularly, And so if there's ever a Nephilim that came down and took a man's wife or whatever, then God allowed that to happen. So it's all part of the movie. And that's the amazing thing about this movie that we're in. It's insanely complex. And the reality is that I don't think this is the most complex that it could. I think this is the least complex, actually. Like, God has created other things and other dimensions that we would be like, wow, like, why the hell do we even have to be there, for that time period? Again, it's a judgment, but this, I think, is actually the simplest that God thinks. But what we're experiencing here, I think because the Bible says this is the lowest hell. And so I think that there are other things that God is teaching other souls in other dimensions, but we're stuck here for now. And so, but
Wait, so
What do you guys think
other
deja
dimensions?
vu
What do you
is?
mean by that?
what's that?
What do you guys think deja vu is?
I think in Second Ezra is where it says that we see our future generation, our future life. If you read Second Ezra 7, when we're out of the body, we see our future. We see the future judgment. And so we've seen our life already. And I actually watched a video earlier today where they actually hooked up somebody who died while they were doing some operation, and they could actually measure that he saw his whole life flash before his eyes. And so before we enter our body, we see our whole life flash before our eyes. And then when we die, we see our whole life flash before our eyes. So we've already seen it. We're just living it now. That's my guess. And the Bible supports it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's strange, man.
You have many of those, or do you have them once in a while?
I have it every now and then, but it'll even be like something really simple. Like I'll be like standing in the kitchen, like talking to
Yeah,
someone, and
me
it'll just
too.
be like a
I get
random
that.
feeling I have, like in the back of my head. It's like, this happened already. Like this
Yeah.
exact conversation we're having, this exact time, like
Yeah.
everything, like this happened already. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like what? And it
Yeah.
just it bugs me out a little bit. Like
No, and you
for
know
the
how Paul
longest, I
went
just
into the
never
third
knew what it
heaven?
was. And
But you know how Paul like
yeah,
went into the third heavens, and you know people have had heaven experiences like LOP and all that. I don't disagree with those. I'm certain that they are going back to the realm before they were in the body, and so they had an experience where prior to they got to go back to that moment when they saw their whole life, and then they had that perspective prior to them being in the body, which was the judgment. And so that's that realm, you know, whether you call it the habitations or the holding place or whatever, it's a place of rest. And so I do believe that God, when you go on drugs and all that kind of stuff, you have access to go back into that, in and out of that kind of thing. So that's what they're experiencing. I don't think they're experiencing like the presence of the Most High, because you need to be. I think that there's like there's a process in order for that to happen, kind of thing. You don't just like go out of the body and all of a sudden, you know,
yeah,
God's
no,
there.
yeah, because I
Right.
spoke to LOP and he told me like described a little bit of his experience, and I told him, I was like, from what I've heard and seen, like the closest thing I could put his experience as is like people that have had near death experiences
Right.
and they've
Right.
been out of the body a little bit, and they've said like similar things to what LOP said. Like he felt like at peace, he felt
Yeah.
like all earthly worries that he had were gone, and
Yeah.
you basically just feel like I guess like perfect.
Yeah. I've heard somebody who's on MDMA, I think maybe it was MDMA or something, and he just said he was at a rave in Vegas. And, you know, that's a place where you feel like you got to be out and running around doing things, chasing girls. He said he stood there and he didn't want to move. Like he was in this like coma of just contentment. And that's not the language that this guy would use in any other situation. So I think those things do simulate that mentally. And then, yeah, it's amazing, you know, to think like lots of people have had that. And I was in a near death experience a long time ago, and I remember a story of a woman who had a near death experience and she didn't want to be back in the body, and she had like kids and a family and all that. She's like, no, I don't want to go back. Like, can you imagine like how pleasurable that would be if you don't want to go back to your own
No,
kids?
yeah, man, yeah, I've read accounts of people that had near death experiences too, and I've heard basically the same thing. Like they say that you know, they're in the presence of what I'm guessing is God, and she's telling them that, you know, basically like you got to go back, you know, like it's not your time yet, and
Right, exactly.
they'll be like, no, like, you know, I don't want to go back, I want to be with you, and
Yeah.
they get sent back obviously, and they come back to life, and yeah, it must be something for them to feel that way, you know.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. And like because all your senses are heightened, you obviously imagine like even like having a moment where you don't feel stress. Like what would that feel like if God all of a sudden gave you a burst of like pure contentment and pure everything's fine and everything's great, and you just experience that for even like a minute? You'll be like, where did that
I
go? Like
I
give me that.
actually do have a story like that. Can I tell you it?
Yep.
Okay. I think I've actually told you this before, but I don't know if you remember. I was telling LOP this. It's kind of similar to what he experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But I was heading back from work one day, and I was outside a Baptist church I used to go to with my grandma. It's right down the street from where I used to live. And I was on my bike, and so I was riding it, and then all of a suddenly I felt like this, like, I don't know how to put it, but it's like you're still aware that you're sitting on, like, you know, like in the physical world, if you want to
Yep.
put it like that.
Yep.
So I still know that I'm on a bike, but it was a brief second. I say it's probably about 6 or 7 seconds, because you know I'm riding there and whatnot. But it was like I was taken from like this place, if you want to call it, like on my bike, and taken somewhere, but still here. And so I remember seeing what I was seeing. It was like being in a world, if you want to put it like that, like surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was white. Just there was nothing around, just white. And so it was like, you ever seen one of those UFO movies where there's like a beam and people are getting beamed up or something?
Yep.
But it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't. I wasn't floating up like being, you know, abducted or anything, as they put it. It's just you could see the light, and it was like a gold light. And
Mm-hmm.
so like how LOP put his experience, it was like nothing but like heavenly bliss, if you want to put it like that. Like
Yeah.
there's no sorrow or anything, but what, and that's basically what it was. Like there's nothing else happening, just that. And
Wow.
so it was very brief, like because I remember experiencing it, and I went back on my bike, and I was like, I blacked out, but like I remember I still kept what I experienced. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And so like
Mhm.
fuck it, I stopped and sat on the grass for a minute, and it was weird though because it was only like a brief second, but it
Mhm.
felt like an eternity. Um,
Nice.
so it was weird. And then I had another experience like that, but it was actually just a dream. And that so like that's
No, but dude,
reasonable,
have
you
you
know, to
have you had any
understand.
end times related dreams? Like ETT shared one recently. Do you ever have those? Like,
I've had a few. I had one about like 8 months ago. Like it was probably just a dream, so you know I didn't really keep it on board, you know,
yeah.
as like something prophetic or
Mhm.
anything along those lines, because I was watching flat Earth videos and looking at beyond flat Earth maps of other continents.
Yeah.
But so that's what I took it as, because you know, like when you watch something, you have a dream about it later on.
Mhm.
Um, so that's what I took that as. But the dream was basically is that I it was a map, but it was like a live map of like the continents and all these other different. You ever go on Google Maps and you see like how they have it labeled out?
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Okay.
And so that was like the first dream that I ever had like that. And then like a while ago, I had another dream about how I was on a train with a group of people. And so when they were leaving we were sitting on top of the train and it was moving along the track, and it was like an over hill view of the San Francisco Bay Area. And it
Mhm.
was basically, I don't know if you how you put it, but like being destroyed, like meteorites coming down. And
Wow.
then like the people that were on top of the train with me were like singing like praises like Jesus and everything. It was weird.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
Dude,
And
my
then there was
friend,
something else, but I forgot what it was.
crazy.
I got
dude,
them all written down. I just got to go on my phone and see them.
Right.
my friend had a crazy dream, man. It was like he said it was surreal, like he felt it. And his dream basically was he was in an apartment building with these people that he didn't know. And he said he looked out the window and like buildings were on fire and stuff.
Mhm.
And he said what had happened, and then he said like these two like army guys like bursted through the door and they had like guns in their hand, and they told him and like the people in the room, they were like, y'all can either fight with us or y'all need to get out of here. And he
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on, but he's like, those guys were panicking. And he was like, they looked like they were like trained guys, like they didn't look like regular soldiers, they looked like they were like some kind of special forces. But to see them that freaked out, he was like, something must be going down to have them scared.
Right.
And basically what he found out later in the dream was that like Russia and China had invaded the US, and
Really?
they were on the ground. And he said this wasn't like Russia like today. This was a few years ago when it happened, but he told me that like this wasn't like the Russia of today. He's like they
Mhm.
were a lot more aggressive with the US. Like they weren't they were killing civilians in the street. Like they were not
Shit.
taking any prisoners. They had nothing. They were brutal. And
Mhm.
basically he said like he heard them going through the apartment building, and you could hear like radio chatter between like the American forces, and he hears them like panicking,
Mhm.
and then he hears like gunshots, and then it gets quiet, and he was like, I just heard like Russian speaking. And then he's like, I hear them come up the stairs, and they're going down the hallway, and they're sweeping the rooms, killing people. And
Jeez.
he's like, they get to my room, and he's like, I see this guy, and he must have been like a high ranking one from they were wearing. And he said he shot my friend.
Hmm.
He got shot in the dream, like he could feel it. He was hanging over him, and
You're cutting out, man.
Yeah.
and
Sorry.
then
Galapagos. It's
he
we
ends
hear
his
you now.
dream by killing my friend.
That's insane, dude.
Or the dream basically ended of my friend getting executed by
Holy
them.
crap,
That's
dude.
crazy.
Like he could feel like the full
But
bullet, like he could experience.
yeah, like he said he felt like getting shot.
Gosh.
Like when he woke up, he felt like pain.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, I said, man, like, I don't want to call you crazy, but because at that time I wasn't that spiritual, but I was like, dude, maybe you saw the future, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't feel like a regular dream.
No. And I think that those sort of apocalyptic kind of things, you would think more and more people are having them, whether they're going to actually manifest or not. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, like more frequently now at this point. That's crazy, man. But I find dreams to be like the kind of coolest analogy for us to be like the creator, because we're kind of like I view it like we're living in his dream. Like this is his imagination. And so he lets us have dreams where we then go to sleep. We don't plan the script, but we do have a weird sense of some amount of control of like what's going on. And then people have free will because like we didn't like write the script before we went to bed, but we have the ability to end it by waking up. So to an extent, I feel like that's an analogy to like what we're living right now. So we have some amount of free will. It's hard to really explain how that works, but God ultimately controls the dream because it reflects parts of him before he began the dream, and then he has the ability to end it. So we're hoping that happens soon, because this is a nightmare.
Yeah, man, for real. And then like it goes even deeper, because it's like once you realize God's in control of everything, like all the events unfolding, he's putting the thoughts in their head to do these things.
Yeah,
it's like, well, dang, man, he could make anything happen potentially.
The cards are loaded in his favor, and now we realize like I don't fight it anymore, because like we used to think like, oh, we got to fight the evil, and like, well, okay, well, like
yeah, that's what I've always took it as too.
For real.
At this point, we lose 100%. Like, what the hell can we do? Like, we even like our family doesn't like us telling like, oh, the government's evil. They're like, shut up. You know, it's like, well, okay, well, what can we change then? Like,
yeah,
we're
exactly. And then
So-
it's like when you look at the so-called truth and like the people that we have on our side, supposedly, it's like they don't even get along with each other. They're fighting with each other.
Exactly.
And like you look at the flat earth, for example, like I love how you always bring up like the flat earth community, because they're like the perfect example.
There's just a
Like
bunch of
they
clowns.
know that one of the biggest truths ever, yet you see them on there, they don't even agree on it. They're like, oh, the earth, yeah, you know, we live in a simulation, this and that, and
Right.
we just need to coexist and get along. It doesn't matter what you believe, we'll get along together. And then you see, if you ever like go on a forum where they're always arguing with each other, like, oh no, you know what, I don't think it's flat anymore. I think it's like there's like a hole in the middle, or it might be like a donut, or something. And they're just it's like, dude, even if we defeated this, whatever you call this evil, and there was just us and like these truthers, the peace would not last more than a week before we like kill each other.
That's why we have no choice but to go with the Bible narrative, because it's the only one that like actually is defined. You know what I mean? Like some definitive structure of like the reason behind it. But you're right. If you go into like these flat earth communities, like they're effectively atheists, a lot of them, you know.
Yeah, a lot of them don't even follow the Bible. Like if you look at like Jake the asshole or David Wise or whatnot, they have a biblical creation thing that, you know, they subscribe to, but yet they don't subscribe to where it originates from. And I never understood that, to how that happens, because a lot of them are actually, you know, white people that don't follow the Bible at all. The only one that I've actually can think of off the top of my head would be like Russian vids and someone else.
And that's what's deep. Like God only allows people to blaspheme him in the way that he wants, because he's controlling both sides. So they'll make fun of God, but he limits the amount that they're allowed to. And so they have an important role to play as well, because like they bring out the flat earth. But that's amazing, because it's not logical for somebody to be a flat earther and to push it and know it like David does, like Dirth does, and to not be like, well, why? Like, why did this happen now all of a sudden? Any normal person would ask those questions, you know. And then for Jaron to go and ask God to give him a blowjob, like that's not, you wouldn't go and say that if you had like a brain.
Wait,
like,
he's really said that?
I have it on my channel. That's not hearsay. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So you know, you would. I'm not saying you would like. You wouldn't have to like suck up to like every religion, but you wouldn't go and blaspheme one of the main ones, you know, that's out there as a candidate for explaining why the earth is flat. So
yeah,
these people are all controlled, you know, they're controlled to bring out certain truths like the flat earth, but they're going to be like, I don't know, like maybe a retard made it. That's what Durst said. Like what kind of stupid person makes a statement like that? But knowing that God exists, a God exists, why would you call that God a retard? That doesn't make sense. So, you know, that's
well, that's kind of something that I've always get on LOP for, because he's always doing blasphemous stuff and then he gets mad, is that he's always saying that God is the reason why his life is shit, and he'll start complaining. And then I tried telling, I try to counsel people, but then after a while, it starts getting repetitive and real irritating. I've noticed that, and that is that he's no matter how many times you could tell him the same thing to change his logic, he'll always go back to the root of it. Is that God's the reason why his life is shitty, and he'll start saying fuck God and all this, and God's a bitch, and he could kill God if he wanted to. Like
Wow.
that's the kind of stuff that LOP says. Not trying to be like the kind of
I don't want to
instigator
give
in it,
LOP
but
a pass, but I mean, like, to be fair, like, he does have like
Yeah,
schizophrenia.
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
But
I totally get that, but
but
he
he knows what
seems
he's
to
saying
be
though at the same
in
time.
control of it, though.
Yeah,
You know
he
what I'm
does. He
saying?
does. He does. But yeah, I mean that's actually an aspect of the fact that I sort of agree with him, because when I became a quote unquote flat earther, I was pissed. Like I went to school all those years, and it's not that I wouldn't go to school, but like I wouldn't go with that much pressure and making it all serious and try and get the grades. Like I would still learn, of course, but like so we all went to school and got stressed out to learn like a majority of lies and like all this system's stupid and all that. Like I was pissed. I started emailing my high school teachers. They're like, why are you emailing me? And so like, they were like, well, I didn't, like whatever. Like, okay. So I realized like I can't get mad at them. So I started getting mad at God, and then that's what I always said to the Hebrews at the beginning. Like, if you're mad about being enslaved, like, why aren't you getting angry at God? Like, he's the one that did that to you. And so there's an element of that that's true. Like you do, but I'm not saying go and curse out God. That's a bad idea.
Didn't they put themselves in that predicament though of going against him?
Agreed. 100%.
That's why they're in
It's
slavery.
no one else's fault. We got to call a spade a spade. Like you can't go and blame other people. If anybody makes a decision to accept enslavement when there's an option of death, which lots of Israelites have taken in the past, why are we going to cry you a river, man? And that's the same with us right now. If I don't want to go be enslaved, then I don't have to. Okay. And then I don't get mad at anybody. I mean, I think the earth is boring either way, but that's not anybody else's fault. Like no one's going to come fix that for me. So no one's making me be a slave if you're in a clear mind, unless you decide to go and do that. So, and if you decide to go and do that, that's up to you. I've decided to be a slave for many years. I just don't want to do that anymore. And so that narrative falls apart, that it's the white man and Esau and all. Like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah, that's actually a something that I've actually came across. ETT says the verse says Assyrian, but I looked into it and I couldn't find nothing but other than like Aramite that it says. But there's a verse, I forgot which verse it was, but it says, do not abhor an Edomite because he's a brother and you're a stranger in his land. You know what verse I'm referring to?
Yeah, and that's what's deep, man. That actually goes with what we're talking about, because there's certain verses in the Bible, maybe it's not that one, but just in general, even when Christ says, forgive your enemies, he's speaking on the highest level of understanding, because he's saying that ultimately all of this is a righteous thing, all of it, even the evil. And so Christ, even when he said, when they hit you with one side, turn the other side. And if they ask you for one thing, give them the double and all that. It's all that stuff speaking about a highest level understanding, which Christ has, because he's one with the Father. So he knows that God's left-hand side is doing a task. When he was about to be crucified, he said, you don't have the power to do this. You're just an actor who's doing exactly what God tells you to do. And so Christ knew on the highest level that God's left-hand side was in charge of what they were supposed to do. And even the Israelites, like the brothers and Maccabees and all that, when they were getting their torture, they were like, we got to do it, because this is a judgment. We're going to go and take our punishment, and then you're going to get destroyed at the end, because God's not going to need you anymore to punish us. So all the righteous, highest Israelites, they know that they're in a movie and God's left-hand side are being energized by God. So that's deep. That's not for everybody to know. So they don't. That's why I know that the Hebrews, a lot of them are actors, because the real non-actors would not go on the street and start cussing out the white man and call sluts and prostitutes. They would go right to God and say, God, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I understand all these people are just a bunch of actors and disgusting, and they wouldn't go and like yell at the white man and you guys put us in slavery, so I'm going to use the Bible to go.
Well, that's what they do though.
Over the head. Yeah, but that's not what the Bible says is going to happen in the kingdom. So they're clearly mistaken. So God's going to be like, wait a minute, you taught all that stuff about how, I'm behind good and evil. I'm behind all that stuff. But then you went and yelled at the white man. He'll be like, how come you didn't figure it out? You're stupid. And so that's on them. And so, that's clear. Like that's contradictory to like Deuteronomy 28:68 literally says you will be sent into slavery by your enemies. So, but you're not supposed to trust your enemies, though, I thought. And so that's why I call a lot of people actors. I don't care if I offend people. Like, I just know that I'm not an actor, And then that's apparently like a novel thing today. It's like, well, I guess there's a few of them that come by my channel, but like we're everyday normal people who read the Bible, and then we like understand like, common sense and like all that kind of stuff. And then like that offends people because we have common sense. And even what you were saying earlier, Sacramento, about this conversation offending a lot of Christians because we be called mystics. Well, to hell with them. We're a mystic then. You and your Christianity, all you people, you can go die. I don't care. So,
Well, yeah, they would call you that because it refutes everything that they teach of there being an evil entity and an all good God. But
right.
yet but then there's the second version of that. So there's I always put things in like three layers. So the core of Christianity, that there's an all good God and there's an all evil devil, and
Mhm.
then there's the ones that actually look into Scripture, but not with the kind of concept that you have, where it's something that I kind of present, some similar, but the ones that don't necessarily subscribe to the extra biblical text.
But I would just, even
Uh,
just us brainstorming, even us not even coming up with an answer, but us just brainstorming spirituality and all that, like that should not be labeled a mystic. That should be labeled somebody with like common sense,
yeah, but it's something that they deem as heretic or something like that.
Antichrist. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the cool thing about it. Even I want to use the same logic with the Hebrews. It's like if we're using logic and the very verses that they're quoting against them, like why are they not getting it? That's my point. Like why are they still barking at the man and the Esau and all when we know that God is behind good and evil, and they quote those verses? So how does that make sense? And so if you're going to beat anybody over the head for the evil, what are you going to do? Beat God over the head in the kingdom because he's the one that
No,
prescribed the
I
evil?
think you should be the men that are doing it, like that are
No,
not necessarily in line with the righteousness of it,
no.
but
If you're gonna harm anybody for being enslavement, it's going to be the
oh no,
people that
I'm not
decided
referring
to.
to that. I'm referring
Oh, okay.
to something a little bit different.
Okay, but that's my point. Is that all these things? Then that's the cool thing about the Bible is that you can't, if you really understand it on the deeper level, you do realize that we're in a movie and God's in control of it. And then if you have any issues with it, what LOP is doing is logical. Actually, I'm not saying go and cuss out God. But what he's doing where he's not, at least I haven't seen that. He's not going complaining to other people like, hey, you did this to me and you did this to me. This is the element that I relate to him is that we go to God and say, God, what the
Yeah,
hell?
he's going to the source.
Exactly. I wouldn't use bad language with him. I don't think because he's some
Yeah,
kind of
that I'm not getting at him for his justification to why he's asking it. It's more or less the disrespectful language that always gets to me.
Yeah, agreed. And that's the part that, I have to be careful too, because I remember saying some things when I had like a neck issue a couple years ago, and it kind of cursing got out because I didn't like the pain, but like I don't think I should have said that. I don't know if something else would happen because I had two bulging discs in my neck, and I don't know if the second one was caused because of the first one. It's not funny, but like maybe I said some things I shouldn't have, kind of thing. So that's why I'd warn people, like, don't play with this God. Like, don't just make up things. If you don't know, just say you don't know. That's fine. Like, no one's gonna get mad at you or whatever. But like, if you start saying things and like, I'm gonna like do this and that, and like I'm gonna make. If you start saying God's gonna do this and that, and God's not gonna do that, he's gonna like punish you or me. So that's a lesson learned. And but go to the source. Like, what can we do now? We can't complain to anybody but God. So like the nice thing about our situation in the end times is like we can't go to complain to anybody. Like we can't make a corporation like value us and give us something creative to do unless God makes a corporation to do that. So we're in that kind of situation. So
Yeah, that's a new concept that I never really, explored before. Is that like I have always known that he was behind everything, but more or less indirectly behind everything. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say it like that. Directly behind it, but the actions that he does it is indirectly in his favor. I never know actually that he was, behind every action. in that
Yeah,
way, if
he
you
has to be.
understand what I'm saying.
Because anything that, even when we read Genesis 1, he's energizing all the animals and everything. Like, it's his creation, and he's putting the battery in it, so to speak, which is what you would call the soul, I guess, like the consciousness. So he's stitching it, and he's making somehow, again, that energy that's inside of us is an element of God. It's a sliver of God. So it has to have some amount of sovereignty, some amount of ability to create and decision make, and have memory capability to remember certain things. All those things are somehow encoded into that soul. And then your path and your journey is stitched into that soul, because it has to be, because, like, where else does it get affected later? And so, because it's stitched at the beginning when a person's born. So somehow that body, the brain, all the mechanisms, the pathways of the brain, and how the soul energizes that brain, that's how God fixes the movie. He's got it rigged, so to speak. And that's amazing, but now we ask is that if he puts our consciousness in a body, that's, we don't have to be a child and grow up and learn from other liars, and he puts that in a body, or maybe that soul is itself able to exist on its own, and then we're just God now. We get to create and move around and learn
That
things.
sounds like the Mormon belief. Like, when we die, we become our own gods.
Yeah, no, I think we already are gods. Like, we're now, like, in a judgment, maybe to refine that, or to understand evil, which is the way God defines being able to interact with him. And so, yeah, I think that's the case, and then,
So
yeah.
you think before, how would you put it, like a human experience? So, like, before birth,
Mhm.
we at one point were essentially gods in like a different spectrum of existence,
I
and
think
we
maybe
get
we were angels. Maybe we followed other gods. Let's say, and this is a hypothetical, in the spirit realm. And then God's like, okay, if you follow them, because they are gods, maybe they were above us. And then we have to then now know good and evil. And then we're here. And then we're going to become like God. So, like, it's a process. Like, possibly we were all angels who only did what God said, which is God's left-hand side. But God's right-hand side are being promoted. And then God uses his left-hand side, which are all gods, because they already know what they're doing, because they're all programmed to be that way. And then he's essentially promoting us to that level. So he's using them to show us deception and evil and all that. So that's what the Bible alludes to. I can't necessarily, I wouldn't go to the bank with that. But if it says the deceived and deceiver are his, so God's controlling the left-hand side, those are already quote unquote gods. And then God's elect, or the right-hand side, they're, like good servant says, this is why sometimes he says things that are true. It's like, he's like, are we the last ones to figure this out? Yeah, we technically were, because all these other people have the hive mind, like you said. They're all aligned with God's will of his left-hand side, and they're not going to change. And they're programmed to do that from their creation and construction. And so we're like growing up amongst all these other left-hand side people. And we're like, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to be around these people. And so that's us essentially choosing the good over the evil, but we needed to see the evil first in order for us to be as gods. And that's why in the Genesis account, they're said, once you do that, you're going to be as gods. So, like, that was the aspect that was true. And so this whole movie was a narrative for God's right-hand side to see evil so they can become gods.
So the Most High, how would you say, told them not to eat the fruit,
Yeah, but they were
but
going to.
he actually wanted them to?
Yes, exactly. 100%. Yep. They had to, in order to
Oh,
become a god. Yeah.
oh, that's a mind fuck right there.
But I think that's the only narrative that makes sense, because, again, we say that the whole movie's scripted and rigged, right? Because we see that literally, that it's rigged right now. So if it's rigged now, it had to have been rigged from the beginning. So if there's staged events now, then there must have been staged events at the beginning. So Christ's sacrifice was a staged event, and so was the garden was a staged event. And so he knew very well that when he left, that the deceiver was going to win, and then he's going to come back, and then the judgment's going to begin, and then they got the ball rolling, so to speak. And so he knew exactly the amount of evil, everything, all the deceptions were all planned. And then we'd have to believe that all of us coming out of those deceptions is for a righteous purpose. That's our
You
hope.
you know, if somebody heard you preaching this like a normal Christian doctrine,
Mhm.
they'd actually call this New Age because it has to do with a man becoming a god or
Right.
going back to a godhood.
Right. But
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about it, is that we know just by basic physics what's going on, and even if it's not true, it makes logical sense. It's like what we would want to be. Like, what would you want to be? Like a half god or an evil god or some stupid person? No, I'd want to be God. I want to be a God where I can create, I can have freedom, I can give, because only God can give, because he doesn't need anything. So we don't want to need from people. We want to give constantly. So a normal person, a normal spiritual person would want to be God, like Christ, for example, because like he didn't ask for anything and he had the protection of the Most High. He could send angels. So he wasn't like afraid of that kind of thing. Obviously he had to die for that particular purpose, but yeah, I mean, that's why Christianity is such a fraud. And that's why I would say even his Hebrew Israelites have become Christianity 2.0, because they're a fraud too, because they should be teaching these things. Like, they should be very obvious to them what's going on, at the highest level. And so if they don't know that, then they're part of the deceived and the deceivers.
You know what's kind of crazy?
Yep.
I think like if this narrative keeps going, these people, I think that's what their ultimate goal is. They want to be like gods. I think that's why they're bringing out all this like AI and like merge man with machine type deals, because they want to like upload their consciousness to like some kind of AI frame where they're in control of everyone's thoughts.
Yeah, and I
That's what
think the cool
makes
thing
sense.
about left-hand side is that they're going to do everything that God can do, but they're going to do it in a finite sort of way. You know what I mean?
Counterfeit
Like,
way.
yeah, or a counterfeit way, or just
It's like
not
the
an
bootleg
eternal.
version.
Yeah, and I think that also shows that that's God doing it, because how is it so similar to his personality but on his right-hand side, but it's like a diluted or synthetic or counterfeit version. So everything that they're doing, as far as like like cloning people, they want to be able to create like God can create. They want to be in charge of everything. They want to control all the money, which is what ultimately God is in charge of everything. They want to like be like the judge and juror. They want to like all that kind of stuff. They humiliate people to get rewards. God does all those things on his right hand side. They just do it in a perverted way. So everything is mirrored on the left hand side. So yeah. But we'll see how it all plays out. You know what I mean, Sacramento. But I would say these kind of conversations is really the only logical thing to talk about when you become a person who knows that God exists, to talk about all the stuff that we talk about. It's not wrong, because like other people are on a lower vibration when they come by here. But these are the real conversations that real people should be having.
Yeah, it seems like it, to be honest, because
The
I,
other
I've
stuff's like
I've heard of this kind of
trivia.
stuff, but I've never really further explored it. Like I've heard people say this, but I've never looked at it in that kind of limelight. If like the way you phrase it, a hive mind, it makes a lot more sense.
But like the great kings of the past, where they're like, David was after my own heart and all that kind of stuff. Like, we
Yeah,
don't understand what that means. Like, it's not just like, oh, he did the law and sat down here and did this routine and this and that. He wanted to know like the way God thinks. And so that's what he would spend his time thinking about, and then if you want to know the way God thinks, that's like the ultimate compliment. Because then you're like, it's like when you're with your spouse or significant other, you're like, you don't want to know like what they like what cake, but you want to know like how their brain works, so you can predict like what need they may have in the future. And so that's the same thing with like people that are really close to God. It's like, it's not an arrogant thing to say, I want to know the way God thinks, and then that's the way we should think. Okay. It's like, well, what do you want to think like? Like, like the retards that are on YouTube or the stupid people around us? No, I want to think the way God thinks. And then if we think the same or similar, then like, maybe we can collaborate on something. That's the way we should approach it. And the Christian church, first of all, is a complete joke, because they don't think in general. They think they're on a spinning ball flying through space, which is stupid. And so they don't even use their brain anyway. But that's the ultimate compliment I think you can pay God. And then once you start doing that, then he can start entrusting you and you'll co-collaborate with him. So that's the goal. But dude, I might eat some snacks and then watch some Tiger Woods highlights before I go to bed. But
Tiger Woods.
He played today, man. He's back in the Masters. He's alive. He's walking around limping, but it's fun. It's fun to see him back. But yeah, Sacramento, we should have more of these, man. Next time I go live or whenever you go live or Galapagos.
Oh yeah, for sure. I probably go live tomorrow. I had my buddy Sage on, which is unironically that guy that was in your chat earlier lifting the veil. He was on my last live stream.
But dude, these are good combos because what it does is then it starts creating a new kind of elect. It's like if you talk down to people because you're on a higher vibration as them, it actually elevates them. They may want to come and listen to, and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe that Hebrew stuff, that's kind of boring. Christianity, that's boring. Flat Earth shit, that's boring. And it's like, even Perry stuff, that's boring. Sitting around drinking Diet Coke, quoting 4 verses, doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. But like, that's like, it's a good actual platform, because like then you don't really feel like you have to debate. You don't have an answer. It's just like, how do we understand the Most High? And then you look at the Bible and all the scriptures as like one piece of like information that's out there, but they all reflect the Most High. And so like, how do you kind of make sense of what he's doing? That's powerful. People that do that.
So basically it's just trying to understand the way that the Most High thinks.
Yeah. And then everything he thinks, he has the unique ability to think something, and then it becomes in existence, kind of like in a dream. And so we look at all these pieces. We look at the Hebrews as a group, not their doctrine, but like their group and their vibration, and then the Christians, and then the Muslims, and then all the Masons and the Illuminati and all these different things and all that. And then we try and reconcile those things. We're not going to obviously fully understand it, but then once you look at the world at that kind of vantage point, which is the way I sort of look at things, like whenever somebody talks, I pretty much like, okay, that's what that person's role is. And then I'm like, that's boring. Like, that's stupid. Okay, let's move on. And so that's good though, because then you start throwing out the stuff that you already know or have pieced together, or they're on a lower vibration and they don't even want to think the way you think, but then you can go and talk to other people who want to understand it. And so those are the people that should be in charge. If anybody out there is like in the mindset of like wanting to understand God and his heart and his righteousness, they need to be the ones in charge, because they're not enamored with like a woman or like money or a bribe or something stupid or a car or whatever. Like, no, they're stuck with where God is. And so if they're literally stuck with the Most High, then that person should be in charge. And then we'll be okay. But if we put an idiot like Biden or somebody in charge, then we're totally screwed, which is what we have now. So that's a good way to elevate people's minds. But this was good, man. I appreciate it, guys, for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we'll do it again. Sure.
Yeah,
I'm on here trying to educate myself, trying to understand the doctrine that's at play. But
yo, STM, I found a hack, dude. I took a second email. This is on a tip from Mike Cav, so shout out to him for the idea. I took my second email, made a second StreamYard account, and I got 20 more hours. So I can get 60 hours for free on the strength of my 3 email accounts. So
yeah, no, I get. Yeah, I've thought about that too, but I like having like the little watermarks and everything on mine.
Oh wait, you've paid for it?
Yeah, I paid for it. I paid $25 a month.
I'm just letting you know, because I was about to pay for it for this month, but I didn't realize that you can get, as many as you want if you have different emails, and you're still streaming to the same
which I do. I've thought about that, but like I got bad OCD, so like I like my stuff looking a certain way.
Right.
Yes. So like I got a bad. I don't know what it is, but I have a thing where something has to be the color purple. So like most of my stuff is either black and purple or like red and purple.
Yeah, dude, you accused me of wearing a purple shirt, man. There's nothing purple in my apartment, man. Like,
no, your lighting was purple.
Okay. Well, purple is like a royal kind of color, so that's what you and I should be wearing.
There's a thing where people say that Christ died wearing the color purple. So it's like the color of royalty now.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah, dude, this was really good. So, I'll go live again soon, man, or I'll just hop on your panel and we can get down to the.
Okay, yeah, that'll be an interesting conversation to explore.
Okay. Enjoyed it though, boys. Thanks again, Galapagos, for joining too, buddy. We'll talk to
Yeah,
you
man,
soon.
that was fun.
All right. Peace. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Peace.
Yep.
So, I thank those guys for joining. Just to summarize the conversation, we're talking about flat Earth, and then, we started getting into, just a high level discussion on, what the Most High is and his creative abilities and how complicated his movie is and movies are. I suspect there's more than one going on right now. So that's amazing, and I would highly recommend people to don't use religion as a limitation, and if I do that, don't use my channel as a limitation to think about those things, because that should be interesting and a natural result of being somebody who believes in God. Like the Bible definitely lays out the way it works, the way the earth was created, the flat stationary earth, and then the mechanism that God uses to judge, but it doesn't have every single thing laid out. Of course, it does not. There's a lot of things there that are not there. And so it's not wrong to think about those things. I would definitely not go and charge people for it, or make a business out of it or anything like that, or use it to manipulate people. But if a person is interested and inquisitive like Ezra is, and he wants to know the higher things, God's going to tell you those things, but he's going to ask you, well, do you know these things first? And so we read those interactions in Second Ezra. I just think Ezra is an individual, which he might be Daniel, is he's very much cares about the way that God thinks. And he's like collaborates. He's like, well, why don't you do it this way? And why didn't you do the judgment all at the same time? Why don't you do this way? And we're like, how come you're letting your people suffer like this? And so God loves a person like that, because they care about his mind and his people, what he created. And so that's why people like Daniel, who maybe is Ezra, Noah, Job, and all these people, Abraham's the same. The angels and Christ came to him. He's like, wait, why are you going to destroy them? Like, what if there's a righteous person there? And then he negotiates with them, and because he cares about those people in Sodom, even though a lot of them are evil. And so God does not have any issues with people who collaborate with him when they want to know the way he thinks and they genuinely care about other people. Then God's like, have a seat, let's talk, and that kind of thing. And it's amazing. So again, I thank people for joining the panel, stopping by, and shalom. Good night.